Give me the okay when you're ready.
You're live.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to open our Monday, March 2nd, 2020 Board of Selectmen meeting at 6:30. Stand and pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we don't have. You want to read the...
Sure. Make a motion to approve payroll warrant 20-35 in the amount of $146,478.62.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No?
All in favor? Okay, next.
I make a motion to approve bill warrant 20-35 in the amount of $466,650.07. We have a breakdown of it. Would you like to hear that?
Yes, please.
Of course. The town is $40,631.66. Water and sewer is $10,227.86. Payroll withholding is $34,846.51. Light bills are $355,676.37. Grants and revolving is $25,267.67.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes, just one quick question. Have you noticed with the changeover to a lot of the LEDs that we've done around the town, has the light bills been coming down trending down, or?
So yes, this item though specifically is what they pay their vendors. So our light utility bills has decreased. We budget about 26,000. I think I just got the bill this past week for about 17,000.
Oh, so
So there is a savings, a significant savings from us switching the streetlights
switching
to
over.
LED. Yep.
Great, thank you.
You're
No
welcome.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, moving on. We have a public hearing, but it's not till 7, so
further. Right.
we'll approve the minutes from the February 3rd, 2020 meeting.
Yes, I'll make a motion. I read the minutes to approve the minutes as submitted.
Bill?
I was absent at that meeting, but Denise gave me that cool little phrase. What was it?
The rule of necessity.
The rule of necessity, then I would like to second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion?
No,
All in favor? Okay.
thanks.
Okay, so moving on, discussion and possible vote. We have the parking clerk position, appointment of a parking clerk.
May I take that on, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
So I included just a little history in your packet. Ed Reed has been our parking clerk for many, many, many years. For the last, 6 or 7 months or so, the police chief and I have been discussing the parking clerk position and bringing that in-house to town hall. Ed Reed came in to see me about 2 weeks ago that the company he's been using for the parking tickets is no longer handling them. So it made perfect sense to sort of change this whole process, automate it. Most towns use the company that processes their excise tax to handle the parking tickets. And in most of those towns, it is the treasurer collector just handles the parking tickets. I was treasurer collector in Swampscott, I handled the parking tickets. As I said in my notice, it's not a lot of work. It will allow people to pay online for their parking tickets, can come in. Really, as the parking clerk, all that's needed is if there's an appeal, which we don't have a lot of appeals. My staff can handle collecting the payments at the tax office window. So we're not talking a lot of work. I'm not looking for compensation. It just makes things more professional and central into town hall. So I would recommend, if the board has no issue with it, just appointing me as the parking clerk. Ed came in today, turned over all his outstanding tickets, his handwritten journal ledger where everything is documented, and we can just start automating that process.
So the tickets are issued by the police department?
Correct.
through the police officers on scene or whatever?
Correct.
So you're looking just for the processing part of it through town hall?
Correct, so the police department cannot handle the parking clerk duties because there's an appeal. It needs to be an
Right.
impartial entity that would review the appeal, hear both sides, either read documentation from someone appealing, speak to the officer, and just make a ruling on it. The actual parking ticket law is an administrative appeal by writing. They can choose to then have an in-person hearing after like the third step. I think we've had one in the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. So again, it's not a lot of work. I think we talked about they issue maybe 50 or 60 tickets a year, most of those in the wintertime. I'll tell you, Ed brought in a little spiral notebook, and it goes back 20 years of parking tickets, and it's not even full. So it's just, we don't have that kind of volume. Again, it's just to bring it in and give folks an avenue to come into town hall and make that payment instead of sending it to the police station, then he goes in and picks them up, then he brings them home. You know, there's obviously room for issues if people are transporting money and tickets, and so it just makes things a little easier.
Can I get a motion?
Do you want the motion to be for the position or for the name? You know what I'm saying? You by name or by position, the motion?
It makes no difference to me.
Okay, so I make a motion to appoint the financial director, the parking clerk.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, moving on. Meet with Jeff Gillen, the police chief, regarding utilizing the grant funding for the purchase of a pickup truck.
Good evening, thanks for having me. I'm here tonight in regards to a police-rated Ford pickup that I originally presented over a year ago, and then I withdrew that, not so much because we didn't need it, but just, I was trying to do a lease, and I didn't want to increase my budget that much when I started looking at the numbers. So I pulled it back, and then most recently, Selectwoman Castronellis had asked me about that when I was doing the budgets just recently. And I said that I still needed it, but I was just looking for funding, and it was suggested that I look at grant money and try to maybe find ways to purchase such items like that. So I know this is otherwise a capital improvement type request. However, I got pretty creative, and I've actually found the money to fully pay for it, not lease it, but I have the money that I could pay for this in full, and that wouldn't be out of my operating budget. What I did is I figured out why we would use it or what we would use it for. Such things, say, like the firing range. So we have money where we do the safety classes that the people that attend put into an account. So there's money there that I would use to validate using it for the firing range and things like that. And then for emergency management would be another thing we'd use it for. I have grant money under emergency management. And then I have a third grant. So I've got the money. I've met with Denise a couple times, and I could pay for this in full without affecting the operating budget and any other work to be done. I could do it. I just was hoping for your blessing before I went forward. Again, I think this would be recognized in some cases as a capital improvement, but the other what came to attention mostly is I was having trouble getting the new cruiser. So I was thinking maybe I could get that because the Ford Explorers were on back order. So I was trying to get the pickup going, and what I found out is right now it's dropped, and I can show you if you want to see it. The same exact pickup from over a year ago has dropped $470. They came down in price. I don't know why. They didn't know why either. I think maybe something to do with the Explorers, but they offered this at a lower price, so it just seems like the right time. And then I would still get rid of a couple of those 2007 that I have that I wanted to replace.
That's what I was gonna ask. Are you gonna shrink the fleet on the older stuff?
Yes.
And is the truck four-wheel drive, or so you can get into like
Yes.
the woods or something if you have?
Yeah, that's why I was thinking like the emergency management, if there is a storm. We do have the white one that's four-wheel drive too, but this would be something new and reliable, and again, a multi-purpose vehicle.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I understand you have a lot of grants lined up, but we don't need to have an article at the town meeting to accept the grants and vote?
I've never done that before for grants. Like,
Yeah, I thought we have.
I think he has the grants though, right?
No,
You're-
but we've done that before for like a fire truck purchase and this and that.
Right, but I think that's if we went out for the grant, but I think he's saying he has the
No.
grant in place, no?
I don't know, that's what I'd like to know, that's my question, because I didn't.
You have the grants in place already, the
But-
money's already there.
But no
Yes.
town meeting voted to purchase a truck.
I'm sorry, we had a video issue. What were you saying?
Well, my question is, he evidently has the grant money it's in accounts here at the town already.
Yes.
Can we purchase something without a town meeting saying, okay?
Grants don't go through town meeting.
Okay, so
So-
because it's costing no tax dollars, you could just go out and buy whatever you want?
With the grants that he is granted through the different state agencies, they don't put a requirement on what he has to spend.
Okay.
So as long as it pertains to 911, emergency management, things like that,
Okay.
he's allowed to spend that grant money. Those do not go through town meeting.
But he needs our vote.
I recommended he get your vote because it should technically be capital, and
You should ask.
so that's why he should really come before you all, because, you know, if you see a new vehicle and wasn't on the capital plan, even though it's been discussed.
Well, it was in the plan last year.
It was, and it has been discussed at meetings, but
Right, so, okay, so I mean, I know the truck he's talking about, because I was on the finance board. I just wasn't sure, like, when you can do this. So if he needed additional money beyond the grants, then it would go to town meeting?
not if it's within his budget that's already been voted. So if he has an equipment line and there's money in it, town meeting doesn't vote down to each item, they vote categories. So as long as he has equipment in his equipment line or money, he can use that to equip a vehicle. So as long as it's within
This
the
is buying a
categories.
truck, so it's a little different than just equipping it. I know, I
Right.
mean, I think it's great that you have the money, and I think that, I mean, I go back to the fact that he had this line item on last year and pulled it out because we didn't have the money.
Yeah, I just didn't want to go above and beyond what I really I try to stay within
Right.
the guidelines and the percentage.
You good?
Yep, I'm
Jeff,
good, thank
My
you.
question is, do you have enough money to equip it? Lights and sirens and all the stuff to equip it?
I think so. If not, I'll do what I can for now. That I would maybe wait if I'm too tight, maybe wait till closer to the end of the fiscal year.
Probably refurbishing something you're getting rid of probably isn't worth it.
And some of them it might be, yeah. That's what we've done historically. I think I mentioned with the new cruisers coming out, the 2020, the design's different, so we need all new cages and
Right.
things like that,
And
but
is this gonna be unmarked or marked? or-
Unmarked.
Unmarked.
I'll use it for some, not to do a lot, but like the undercover drug work, or any surveillance. The officers can use it to go for training, to court. It'll be used for a lot of different things, and rather than a couple of the older ones where they sit there a lot, because they're not as reliable if you have to go too far with them. And,
Oh, you
so-
mean the old trucks
the old
that were
ones, yeah,
given to
we
you that
haven't
were just
purchased
donated? Right.
a vehicle like this since 2007 was the last time.
So the only reason I'm asking about the unmarked and marked is because I know in the past, vehicles, not here, but I know some places, vehicles get used and they're unmarked and they're being used to go farther and go whatever. And you're thinking you needed to have unmarked because of,
Well, I have 3 unmarked
Surveillance.
now, and I've never run into that problem.
yeah,
So it would be actually easy to monitor this one and watch the mileage and the new gas card system I started shows the mileage and the gallons used in that specific vehicle by a specific officer that fills up the vehicle. But, I mean, there's definitely a need for an unmarked vehicle in any police department. This one would make it so that it's a multi-task vehicle.
Right. So, just to refresh my memory, the firing range use of this would be because you have to put things,
Well,
you have to bring things to the
Yeah, we
firing.
bring it to the range, or just to drive out there, or we can even transport officers that would have 4 doors in it.
But why would you need the pickup truck part of it?
Just for the bed, right now, we use the officers' pickups when we want to take
Oh,
items out to the
okay.
range.
Okay, I'm getting.
I mean, we're hoping eventually to have some type of security or storage out there too, but we've used other people's pickups to get items out there.
Oh, okay. I
This
see.
could be used to tow that light trailer that we have, the light tower, I mean.
Okay. Yeah.
So I
So
can
you'd
come
use
up
it
with
to tow, use it for that, and emergency management, what
snow
would you?
and
foresee-
floods.
Yeah, emergency management, how would you think, who would be using it in emergency
Well,
management?
Steve Sargent's our director.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already spoken to him, he's on board with this, it's something he would be able to utilize. If he had to go to a storm, I'll go out on a storm, or if he had to block a road,
Okay,
we can put the barricades in the back of the pickup.
Okay.
Or other equipment that he
Makes
might
sense.
need. He thought, when we did discuss it, even just to have the ability to load it up with cones and some of the barricades that lots of times if we do have a bad incident, we don't have enough folks, the officers, to block roads, so allow us to drop the stuff right away.
Okay.
You know, the highway certainly helps us out too when we need it, but this would be like,
But that's why I come back to the point of having it as a regular police unit, loud and everything. So if you're out in a storm, if you're doing blocking traffic, at least now people know, I guess the lights are on, they'd know, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I was saying.
yeah, I've never, the ones we have now are unmarked, and
Yeah.
we used it for, when I was the director, I would use that. And like you say, if you were out, I think the last time we spoke about a storm was the flood, and I went out with that, and once you put the lights on, it certainly gets
Right.
the attention you're looking for.
Okay. And we'd retire one or two of the broken-down trucks because?
Two.
So we would ensure take them right off the road.
Yeah, so that's,
Well, we were thinking of, so one of them that's in better of the two conditions, moving over to, we lost the facilities pickup truck because it didn't meet inspection. So we were gonna take, while we still had time on it, we could move that over because right now Steve is using his personal truck to do any of his facility work. So we have it, it's already insured, might as well just move it over and let him use that. I did put on the capital plan for next year to get a small pickup truck for town hall, but if this one's working out,
Then we can take it off.
We can take it
Okay,
off.
that sounds like a win-win.
You have anything?
Can anybody use the other pickup, like the cemetery department, or?
the other one's, oh, the
Need
one
a
that Denise
plow.
said.
it's the one he's proposing.
He's got two?
No, there are no pickup trucks.
Oh.
It's a Ford Explorer, a Ford Expedition, and a Nissan Murano.
I bet. And you're, this is what, a Ford F-150?
Yes.
Okay, is everyone good?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, someone wanna make a motion?
I make a motion that we give Chief Gillen our blessing to use grant funding to purchase a pickup truck.
Okay, second?
Yep. Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Thanks.
Make it happen.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thanks
Could I
for-
just
thanks
quickly
for-
just mention one other thing, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
The firing range,
Yep.
we did get the fence up, and I want to
Yep.
thank you for, I know you made a call, and that kind of put us over the top. We've been waiting, it's been in the works for several years.
Yep.
And Ed Fournier started with it, and then I took over the project. And I do have to recognize not only you, the board, and all the other support that we got. I worked with Denise on this at times. But Bill Green from the Highway Department, if he didn't do what he did for us, that would not be done today. He's extremely talented, as I think you probably all know, and he did an unbelievable job putting that project together. And it was a lot of work. We worked with conservation. It's been a long haul,
Yep.
but it's pretty much
Yeah, I
complete.
drove out there yesterday, actually, to see the gate's just gotta go on, I think, and then you're done.
Yeah, the gate, I went out today, and there is a gate on there, and I believe even Bill created the gate.
Oh, did he?
That's what Rennie said today, yeah.
Yeah, I know I was talking already about getting the hay silt in for you, I think that was done too.
That's done also, yes.
Good.
So, yes, I
I'm
want to
glad we
thank,
able to get that done.
yeah, no, I appreciate the highway and all that they did, and everyone. It was quite an achievement.
Good.
Awesome.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
coming in.
So moving on, meet with the Board of Health to discuss the FY '21 budget request and salary merit increase request for Laurie Benson.
Hello.
Come up to the microphone.
Come up to the front.
And
we
Bill,
can
just a
hear-
heads up, you have 12 minutes.
What?
You have 12 minutes until the public hearing.
So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna start this, and then at 7, I gotta shut it down to have a public hearing, then we'll come back to it.
Sorry.
Well, unless we do it in.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying, I'm just letting you know if we don't get it all
Talk
done.
fast, Joan.
No, I'm not, no, this isn't how I spend my Monday nights. Thank you. Okay, I'm Joan Searle, Chairman of the Board of Health. I was on the Board of Health when, I think Jack was the chairman, Jack Bevilacqua,
yeah.
when we hired Laurie some 20 years ago. She has never, ever had a merit raise in the entire time she's worked for the Board of Health. So with the increased trash complaints, the increased septic systems, the increased complaints about junk in people's yards, blah, 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 she is really out straight. And I think after 20 years with no raise, that a 5% merit raise is in order.
Okay, anyone wanna start?
Sure. Hi. Don't look at, no, don't say anything, Kat. So, just, I want to make clear, she's been getting the across-the-board raises.
The
all-
1.5, 2, whatever you guys do.
2%, I know,
Yeah.
it's not a significant amount, it's what can be afforded in a municipal budget. But also, last year, we gave her an additional
2
raise
hours, yeah.
for the hours to make
Yeah.
sure that she is being properly compensated
Yeah.
for the time that she works. And I mean, she's very dedicated. and
Very. She
she's-
goes above and beyond.
She does,
To
but
help people.
she does, but we have a lot of employees that kind of fit that category.
And they've never
too.
had a merit raise in 20 years?
Yeah. I
Really?
think we do, yes. Unfortunately, I mean, I agree with you that we don't have a mechanism right now for this type of recognition. We did looked over a personnel bylaw when I first started on the board this past year, but we didn't finalize it. So we don't have a review process that would fairly look across everybody and award the base raise and some other type of raise. And I hear you, she does so much. But then so does Lynn Stanton, so does so many other people in the
Oh.
town hall that have been here for as long as I've lived here. And, you know, the old town clerk opened up the town hall for me one day to post a finance board meeting when a snowstorm hit. And so it's been my personal experience, not really as a selectman, but as a person in the town, that a lot of our employees just do so much more than we pay them for, that I wish that we had that built in to be able to recognize that, but we don't have that. And so once we start saying, this person gets the 2%, and then this person gets 2% plus merit, we run into a problem. I hope you can appreciate that. Last year, as a finance board member, we heard from her and your health agent, and it was very clear they were working more hours than we were paying them for.
She's still doing it. She's still
Right, now,
doing it. I know.
but we had a meeting with you, and we all agreed, when we increase the hours, we need to hold them within those hours. We really do, because they're hourly employees, and we're not supposed to.
She has a lot of interruptions. People coming in with the septic plans, and she has a lot of interruptions.
I just-
People swearing at her right in front of her desk.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
again,
I've heard her hold the phone and the people swearing at her, kind of the trash pickup.
she's one of those people that we count on a lot. I agree with you. I can't see doing merit in one situation, not trying to do something where we look at all the jobs. Do you know what I'm saying? But she really needs to stay within those hours. I hope you can hold it. She can't. It wouldn't be legal, I believe, for her to go beyond the hours that we're paying her, right?
It is not legal, and we've
Yeah.
had that conversation
had it
before.
many
So that's my
times.
concern is, and
We
I
have.
And I know Lori will say, sure, and then she'll keep staying, but we need to push her out the
We've had that
door
many
and make her
times, yeah.
stop. So that would be my concern, that this year, we're not set up for that type of
Merit
recognition.
raise?
Well, we don't have that built into a personnel bylaw. We need to finish the
So
bylaw.
nobody's ever had a merit raise in the town hall?
No, we've done additional duties, additional hours, that's why last year with your health agent at Lori, we were able to look at their situation, and Lori provided us with a lot of data on the work they were doing. It was very clear. We could say, oh, this many more, what is it, the wells? Is it wells? Or septics. So yeah, that many more septics inspections, so we could tie it out to hard data, and it was easy to go to town meeting and say, this is why this salary is going up more than the 2%. And I know 2% is nothing, but in a municipal
Well, we
budget,
wanted a
it's-
merit raise for the merit raise, what do I want to say? Because she does more above and beyond.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, she's
right.
clearly an asset to the town.
She is, I agree with you. But so too are so many other people.
But if they come and ask for a merit increase.
They have in in other years, and I've been on the finance board when we said, we can't do that because we don't have a mechanism to make it fair. I thought last year when we met with you, we reached
Yeah,
a
we
pretty,
got the 2 extra
pretty
hours.
good, fair arrangement, and,
I was very
I was
pleased.
right, yeah.
Very pleased
And
with
I
that.
was
Thank
pleased
you.
too, because I don't like to see somebody pushed to work beyond what they're getting paid for. That's not fair. And I wish we could recognize all the merit of people that work in our town, but we just don't have a mechanism for that right now. I mean, you're a great board to come to bat for her. But we don't have that mechanism right now.
Okay,
I'm
all
sorry.
right.
Not
really.
Thank you for explaining.
You have something?
Yeah.
Not really, no.
I got a couple quick questions. It's more hours. She's,
Okay.
so, you're saying that she's working more hours.
Free.
Right. So my question is, number one, do you know roughly how many hours more a week she's working?
No, I don't.
Okay. My other question is, other towns, her position in other towns, how's her pay scale compared to other towns?
I have no idea.
Okay. And has her duties changed at all? Like, has she taken on more duties, like?
Well, most of it, I hate to say it, is with the trash, the
Right,
complaints.
but I will say to that, Joan, I mean, she gets 10 hours a week of trash. She's not handling 10 hours a week of trash.
No, probably
So
20.
we're paying her 10, no.
You haven't
On
been in there,
certain, on
Denise.
certain times, yes, there is a volume, but not every week, not 52 weeks a year. She is not handling 520 hours of trash
She
complaints.
can't even contact the trash person. He won't allow her to call him. She has to
No,
email
not-
him,
but-
and he won't
Well,
reply.
but I can address that, because she was calling him after hours on his personal cell phone. He told her that was not acceptable. She can call the office during the day, Monday through Friday. That was the situation. She was calling his personal cell phone after hours.
She was getting nothing done. She was emailing him at his request, and he wouldn't even be bothered to reply to her, while there's people swearing at her
And
on
believe
the
me,
phone.
I'm the tax collector. People swear at me all the time. It's not unique to the Board of Health that people are upset. The
Yes,
assessor's
you're
office,
right.
when
No,
their
you're right,
assessment
you're
goes
right.
up. I mean, it's the nature of the public sector that we deal with unhappy residents. It's just the nature of it. As far as interruptions, every office is interrupted. I mean, it's just, you start something, a resident comes in, you put it down and you help them. I mean, I understand the situation, but it's not unique to the Board of Health. And my feeling with the trash is, again, 520 hours a year is a lot of time we're paying, and I don't think we're getting that of trash.
You are, and more.
I would like to
Well,
see it.
We disagree, but.
Yeah,
you
I would
are.
like to see it. I mean, we can track the phone calls, we can
Sure,
track the
sure.
emails. I can see the office. I don't see the volume all day long going in there. So
Yeah,
I
no,
think,
I wave to you every time.
I know you waved to me. But I mean, I think if that's something you can quantify, then that's something we should see.
Okay, we can work on that.
Because I just don't see, I mean, I handle the contract, I deal with the
No.
company. She copies me on emails, maybe 1 or 2 a week, unless she's not copying me and including me on those discussions,
On
which we've talked
everything.
about.
Yeah.
So I don't see it.
Okay.
So when Denise was out having surgery, a situation came up about recycling. She actually contacted me saying that she couldn't get a hold of, like you're talking about, couldn't get a hold of the
That-
gentleman, the gentleman
yeah.
wouldn't give her the call. I said, well, give me the number, I'll call him, or I'll get someone to call him if he's not getting back to you. I don't believe I heard back, but I said, if you're not getting the response you need to get, there's someone higher than
Okay,
you.
that's good
And
to
I'm
know.
here to help
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
I don't know if I'm overstepped my bounds, but Denise was out. I
Yeah,
said, whatever I
that's
can do to
fine.
help you, I'll help you. And she was
That's good to
explaining to me
know.
about the trash
Thank
trucks
you.
and what have
Yeah,
you. And then I said what happened, the trash truck broke, the recycling truck, it looked like it's going in the rubbish truck, it wasn't, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure it's on.
That's the only number she has, by the way, Denise,
What number?
that you said was his private. That's the only number she has.
Oh, no, there's an office number for waste management that we give out to the residents that she can call, the dispatch number if there's a problem, if someone's missed. They actually want us to call dispatch first.
Is that the,
Yeah.
ma-
I think that goes to a call center. I don't think that goes to Londonderry, their dispatch.
Right, but their dispatch is one who would get in touch with the truck.
Right.
The gentleman that she's calling is the manager.
right,
Right,
exactly.
It's after 7.
No, that's clock
Oh,
is
is it
fast.
time?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Is
it's
it
after.
time?
It's
No,
6:58.
not yet, it's almost.
It's
So what I was
6:58.
gonna say is, I think you heard from Selectwoman Castellalis.
Yes.
Our hands are kinda tied.
Okay,
What
I
was gonna
understand
say,
that.
if you go out, see what other towns are paying.
We can do
compare
that.
us,
That's an
okay?
excellent idea.
See what her actual job
Description.
hours
yeah,
description, okay? If she's got a change in duties, come back to us and say, hey, she's got a change in duty, we gave her this, we gave her that. we
yeah.
did-
Sounds good to me.
And then you're gonna have an argument, but not that you don't, I know, but what I'm saying is at least now you have something you
Yeah.
can bite your
Yeah,
teeth into.
Right, exactly. We got something to back it up.
So any
is what
extra
you-
duties, have her start tracking that going forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, put yourself, I imagine you've both been at work before, right? And you've both,
You think?
you've both gone to your bosses or supervisors and said, I deserve a raise because of A, B, C, because I do X, Y, Z. And I think what the board is looking for is more a quantitative,
Yes.
you
I
know,
totally
something
agree,
that we
yes.
can, you know, justify.
Have something-
Point
right,
to.
right.
And say, this is
Look
a
at this.
justification
Yep.
for X, this is a justification for Y. Right now, justification is I've been here 20 years, and that, a lot of people have been places for 20 years, they get their average, and that's what it is, you know, but if you can show and
We will. I
demonstrate
think that's an excellent
how
suggestion.
she's gone above and beyond her job.
Call of duty,
and-
you got
and
it.
brought greater value to the town and its taxpayers and citizens,
Go for it.
I'm all ears.
Thank
But that's
you.
also something we've never discussed as far as the personnel bylaws, any kind of longevity or anything. We don't recognize that. Perhaps that's something we should discuss, is
Yeah,
longevity.
that's a good
because
idea.
when
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
commits that kind of a
Okay.
time to you, it's important.
Well, see, nurses do that, but
Yeah.
it's union.
Right.
So at 2 years, you get X number of dollars, 5 years, you get X.
Right.
All right, thank you, I
You
gotta
gotta
cut
do
it
your-
short.
Your thing,
All right, are
okay.
you, so,
What's the
How about we
public
just
hearing
suspend it?
about?
On the street.
if you wanna keep talking, we just gotta shut it down and do this and come back.
Okay.
You wanna keep talking, or you?
Are we done? We're
Yeah,
done?
if you, unless you have something else you wanna say to us.
No?
Okay.
No?
You
No
look
problem.
great, by the way.
Huh?
You look great.
I try.
You do.
I work
Okay,
hard at
seven
it.
You work
o'clock.
out.
Okay. I see the time is now 7
Nice to
o'clock.
see you.
And in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 82, Sections 21 and 22, the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on the proposed road layout of Hampstead Lane, per the petition of DeHulu Homes as prepared by William G. Old, PLS.
Okay.
So we have several folks, the town planner's here to discuss it. I know the highway superintendent's around if you have questions. Dina DeHulu's here, and I don't know if there's any, I don't think there's any residents of the street. So if you want to hear from any of them, I would at least invite Rebecca up to discuss the planning board's part of it and how it's coming to you for the proposed layout.
What street is this?
Homestead.
Homestead Lane.
Which is gonna be weird.
It's already there.
It's there, okay.
I know. Good night.
Hi, thank you. So this is for a street acceptance proposal.
She should say her
This
name and her title.
particular.
Can you say your name
Oh,
and title?
Rebecca, Oldham Town Planner.
Yeah,
Sorry. So this particular development was constructed a while back, and the planning board at that particular time had given back the bond monies that was held in accordance with this subdivision, but they had never gone through the official laying out of the public way through the actual procedure. So we had got in touch with the developer, and they have provided all of the information, the warrant article, the deeds for the roadway, the deeds for the easement. There's also the recorded plan, the operation and maintenance plan that's associated with the actual stormwater infrastructure for the roadway. And so, essentially, this is a formal process now. The planning board has heard this matter. They have recommended favorable action. The highway superintendent has been out to the site as well. His letter is in the packet that was provided to you as well, and he's speaking in favor. I don't know if you have
Yes.
anything.
No, there was one, I believe when I first took the position, there was one concern over a drainage issue. That's why in my letter, there's a little speakeasy about that. But other than that, I give, the roadway is constructed to standard as far as I can,
Right.
from the specs and everything.
So the road is constructed to standards. Is the issue of the water entering someone's property down lower, has that been addressed, or,
It,
even a problem?
I heard that there was a murmur that there was a problem. I have not heard from any resident that it's an active problem. I think
Okay.
we've had enough rain, snow,
Yep.
thaw cycle that if
So you
there was an
haven't heard
issue,
anything, so there's no problem?
there's
as far
no
as we know.
problem, as far
Okay.
as I know.
So the gentleman who had made a complaint about the drainage had actually come before the planning board a while back, and the planning board actually went out to the site with the developer and the site contractor, Larry Kelly, and they had stated that they did not see a problem with the development and the impact on that particular lot. So they did address that matter when it came up before them.
Okay, so it's addressed.
Exactly, so this is more like a formality,
Yeah,
like
no,
first
I just
sunset
wanted to
circle.
make it public that it's addressed, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, so, anyone on the board have anything they want to say on behalf of this?
No, I think that we vote to approve it, so that adds to our Chapter 90 funds, right?
That is correct.
There we go.
You wanna
So
go
it's
ahead
still
More
pending
for that.
tonight, it still needs to go to town meeting to accept.
Of
Right.
course.
So,
Tina,
someone
did you
wanna
have
make a
anything you
motion?
wanted to add before they vote?
What is the wording of the motion? Is there anything in particular, or just?
Right here, just,
To
I would
ex-
read the line that, on the agenda.
To accept the
Public hearing.
proposed road layout.
Lost the
Yeah.
agenda again.
So I'll make the
Thank-
motion to,
Oh, thank you. I just love our agenda
I'll
again.
make a motion to accept the proposed road layout of Hampstead Lane.
Homestead.
Homestead Lane, per the petition of the DeHulu Homes.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, all set,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
That was painless, huh?
Okay, so now,
A lot of paper.
I'm up.
we're moving on to Rennie Carroll, Highway Superintendent, to discuss the
There's my
following
agenda. It was on this
um,
pound of-
yard waste permits, adopt a spot, street sweeper, FY '21 budget request, salary merit increase. So I guess I'll let you start.
See, we start at the
What number tab?
top of the order with the,
30.
30?
You were already open to it, I believe.
I thought he was orange. He's 30? That's capital improvement.
with the yard waste permits.
Sorry,
Yeah.
20.
20.
So the town, obviously, we have the yard that residents will bring
Yep.
yard waste to, leaves, branches up to 8 inches in diameter. Many towns and, larger venues have a compost or a yard waste sticker
20.
that I'm looking to invoke to offset the cost of this process. We had Pearson's Landscaping come in with their tub grinder. They grind up all of our yard waste to the tune of about $7,500, as well as having the part-time help that manage the yard during this Wednesdays and Saturday openings during the season for yard waste drop-off. So this would kind of offset the cost of the town and crudes. I think Denise had some mocked-up stickers already. I think we're gonna start the process at $25 for a composting sticker.
Okay.
And this would help, and we have, a guesstimation of how many people would, purchase the sticker, and that would give us a number to run off of to kind of offset the cost of it.
So that'd be like every year you buy it, or every time you need to dump a load of
I think it would be once a year, a yearly sticker.
yearly sticker? Yeah. Well, that way we know who's bringing in, that they're all residents of the town as well.
We
right?
do anyways, they're checked when they go in by,
Oh, they are.
Their
Reed
check,
and
their
Jerry
IDs
Tibbetts
checked, or their
checks.
registrations checked, so we know they're town residents.
But this would make that a little easier.
This would make it, like I said, it would offset the cost, and it certainly would help out. I'm guessing from my budgetary notes that we spend with the part-time help, we spend about $10,000 a year or more managing this.
Do you think this would generate $10,000? No.
Like I said, because of the offset, we don't, it's tough to gauge on, who would purchase the stickers and how it would go, but it would certainly help offset the cost. If we had 250 to 300 people,
Yeah. $25 a pop. It's just a few
So it's
hundred.
not gonna really offset it a lot.
No, it's not gonna do much.
I mean, it might cut it in half. Might be more, it depends on what the turnout is. We have no idea to gauge because this is a one-off. We've never done it before.
But we know how many vehicles are in town.
right, but the number so I think they have an estimate of how many dump now.
Oh, okay.
But that may change. I mean, people may not want to pay the $25 or pay to
Right.
dispose of their yard
Where's
waste.
it gonna end up?
That was
We have
good.
300 cars that come in now. Hopefully, the 300 stick with us.
One of
And
the reasons they started that whole thing over there was because a lot of times the stuff was getting dumped on back
off
roads.
the side of the roads, yeah.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons they did it, because people didn't wanna go to G Mello and pay and what have you, so they ended up opening this up to try and make it so that stop dumping all over town.
Okay.
Right.
So, I don't know,
Well, do they get to use the compost if they bring their?
That's the other thing that I'm looking to upgrade for the town, and that certainly will be prevalent this upcoming season, is I have a company coming in to make our compost more attractive, because the
Okay.
compost we have isn't very usable for people that have gardens or,
Oh, okay.
so the stuff that I'm looking to produce is stuff you would buy at Home Depot. It's
Okay.
stuff that you would pay really good money to
Oh.
get your hands on, that we
Okay.
would be supplying to the town for free.
how much will it cost you to process it?
That's the best part of this company, is they take, because we have so much overburden when we tub grind and we haul it out, and they actually want that product. So the stuff that we're basically giving away, they're gonna make and use for their own products. So they take the majority of it for themselves
And
and
they
leave
give you
us
some.
some of the finished product.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's like one hand
Right,
kind of
right.
washes the other.
Okay.
And that would also help offset some of the costs of,
So if you have a permit, you'd be able to come back and get compost?
Correct.
For free. That's pretty good. to
Correct.
They
know.
do that now, though, correct? It's
we
just
do
not
it
the
now, but
quality
no
that-
one takes the compost we have.
Okay, but, so with the introduction of the fee, you'd also be at the same time introducing the better compost. that
Correct.
they would. So it'd be similar to what they go to Home Depot and buy.
Yes,
And you spend more than $25 buying all that.
for a
kind of
bag, exactly.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
easily.
So
Easily.
this, like I said, the company I'm working with is called Black Earth. He showed me samples of the stuff from his, 2 or 3 facilities. And like I said, when you put it in your hands, you can just tell from touching it that it's a really good product.
So right now, the highway's locked.
Correct.
So if you do this, they're gonna have to leave the highway unlocked to let people come in and go out to get the compost. Or you're gonna just do it on days
It's just
that,
gonna be on the
the
set
days that
days.
they're open for the brush? Okay.
And this company actually will do some of the management of it too.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
great.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good idea.
Mhm.
See how it
and they
goes.
contacted me, I had nothing to
What do
do
you
with.
think?
Who wants to talk?
I'll be honest with you, the permit sounds like another tax. And I don't want taxes. I don't want any more taxes than I pay already, because I pay too much.
Okay.
On the other hand, the selling of the compost is a better idea, because now people that want it can purchase it. They're not forced into paying a permit fee to bring it. So I'd rather see you make the money on the other end, selling the good compost, than taxing our residents more to bring their compost. You know what I mean?
I
Because
do-
one seems like a tax and the other one seems like a
I
purchase.
do know what you mean. The problem would be the volume you'd have to sell to offset. Well, I don't know if it would be there, because,
Well, right now, you wouldn't have any money changing hands at the site, because they'd buy
No.
a permit at the town hall.
correct.
Well,
how
do
would
we
they buy the
know,
bag of
does everybody know that this is really good compost and it'd be great for your gardens? I mean, has it got to that point where it's usable like that today, or is this a plan for the future? Because if it hasn't got to that point today, then, of course, nobody's gonna buy it, and nobody knows about it, and nobody would have an interest in going down there because it doesn't exist, right? But if this is something that could be proposed for this spring, summer and fall, and make it public, and I'll do my best every other week to make it public.
Yeah, it will be pushed by the company themselves. When people come in to drop brush off, there'll be associates there that will kind of push the compost on.
So one way,
I mean, I might buy a couple of yards
Yeah.
for my garden, but I probably wouldn't, I'd be
Well,
opposed to the tax on getting a permit.
Maybe instead of 25, we could go with a lower number. And
Well, I was
make it
gonna say,
A
if
little
you-
more feasible
what
at
I was gonna
15, or,
A
you know what I
tax
mean?
is a tax is a
I know,
tax,
but
no
hold
matter
on,
how
hold
much
on.
you make it,
what you
it's
could
still
do
a
is
tax.
tell the people, they get a permit for 25.
Yeah.
That permit for 25 also gives them free use of the compost.
Right.
So now it's not a tax. They have the ability to go ahead
He's
and
saying
get,
that
That's
now.
why it's a compost. That's
No,
why it's a
but
compost tax.
I've got to buy the permit first.
Yeah,
but you're getting to dump your brush and you're getting to get compost.
But now, if I've got a small lot, I live in the manor, I don't have a garden, but I've got to pay for this, I've got to pay to get rid of this, I'm never gonna use the compost, you see what I mean?
Right, well,
When I look at it purely as tax, it's an impediment to me getting rid of my waste. The other is, an opportunity to purchase good compost from the town and reimburse for the cost of doing it all.
Right. I don't know, I like the idea of having the permit because it puts all the money at the town hall. I don't think it's really a tax, it's a fee, it's a very nominal fee. And you could buy the permit if you just want to be able to go in and get some compost for your garden.
You know, because
And rather than going to Home Depot, support your town's efforts to, take trash and make, not trash, but, leaves and sticks and things and make compost out of it. I think it's a good town effort, a green effort. I like it. I think we should do it.
And I have some more questions.
Okay.
Who's gonna oversee all this? Because it's obviously time, and time equates to money. So who's going to be the
So there'll be no-
grand gatekeeper of this whole
there'll be
project?
no, as far as if there's any more time needed at the facility, this company actually takes that on. That's part of the contract is that they don't charge us for any of their time. Because they make money off of our product, that's the offset. They're willing to man any extra hours, which is something else I want to implement, is maybe another day of, because I think we do Wednesdays and Saturdays now, and people were talking last year that we could use another day here or there.
So is that company gonna issue the permits?
No, the permits will be issued at town hall.
At town hall by whom?
most likely Denise, or someone at town hall, or
So
me.
we're gonna add more to Denise's plate. Shouldn't that be handled by you or your
I could do it.
department?
I could certainly do it.
Wouldn't that make more sense, seeing as you were in charge of that kinda, that's your
I could do it.
purview?
Absolutely.
Well, money would still need to come
It'd
through the
still
one
have to go through
office.
the treasurer, right?
He shouldn't be collecting money. I mean, he
No,
could
I
certainly
can't-
process the permits, but he
Process the
can't really
permits
take the
and issue
money.
the tickets,
Okay.
but
Can I
I
ask you a
can't.
question?
Yes.
The company that's processing that material, are they the company that's gonna take it out of here? Are they gonna process it and load it out of here to their
They
customers?
do both. They do
Right.
both. So
So
they
what's gonna
process it
happen-
on-site.
I've seen it happen
Yeah.
before. It's crazy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna take your 300 yards, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna process it, they're gonna give you a quarter of that pile, they're gonna leave the rest of it, and they're gonna process it and tell the people to come in and take it out of that pile. They're gonna have people coming in that highway garage taking that. There's another
No, no,
company.
no. They won't sell it out of our garage. They're
gonna load it and take it out.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
High-capacity vehicles will take that.
Right, because they
to their
confronted me
facility.
for the same thing with
Yeah, yeah,
ours,
yeah.
and I'm like, nah, I don't, they can process it, put it in a pile, and they'll have people come down and get it, and they'll have a machine there, that's why they say
Mm-hmm.
they'll manage it, he was gonna manage it, and I'm like, no, I don't want all the people coming through my yard, you know what I mean?
They manage it as far as making the compost, and then,
Okay.
when
Right.
they just, once the compost is ready for them,
Right.
it leaves the
Okay,
facility.
all right, so it's leaving, it's
Yeah.
processed and gone to their place.
Correct.
I have
Go ahead.
So you're going to come to us with a contract to review for this company. So we could just tie all this together at one point when the contract is there.
Yes.
We could do that.
If that's what you require, usually I handle the contracts as chief procurement
Oh,
officer.
okay.
If you want it tied into this board, then you can make that a contingent on another agenda item.
So, but the fee and all, I mean, I don't want to vote the fee without a contract. You know what I mean? It's all
Yep.
tied together.
Yes, so we can have the contract come here, it's just, that that's not normal. So if you want that, we'll just make sure that that's on an agenda.
Well, no, if you're willing to do that.
Well, I do, I handle all the
Perfect.
contracts.
So I just, so
Not comfortable with
you
that.
could do the contract, but do we need to vote the fee first before you've done the contract? I just want to make sure this all goes at one point.
I haven't seen the agreement, so I don't know
Yeah, the
what goes
agreement,
into
I
it.
haven't gotten the agreement either.
Okay,
I'm
so
still
we need to
waiting.
wait.
It's still in its, it still is
Okay,
in its somewhat infancy. He just got to the
Mm.
facility last week, I think Wednesday or Thursday last week. So they make sure they have enough, there's enough land there. They want to know the operations before
okay.
we get a contract. But he assured me there'd be no money transferring as far as us paying them.
I personally
there's-
think what we should do is table this until we get more information, that's my
Right, so
opinion.
Denise has a contract.
So, but one of the issues is, in order to start something like this, where the funds from the selling of the permit goes back to composting, it requires a revolving fund and requires town meeting. So if this is something you have any plans, now, we can vote, town meeting can vote to start a revolving fund. It doesn't necessarily mean we need to fund it. So if you're unsure, we could still put it on the warrant, and either table it the night of town meeting, or just let the account be created pending further discussions. But it would require town meeting to set up a revolving fund.
I think there's more conversation that needs to happen,
Right,
period.
because I'm not understanding, so, because the money, that, this isn't gonna pay for all the people that do this work on the town side, no way.
Correct, it's not. It will not cover the cost.
But you still need to have a revolving fund, you can't
Well-
put it on the general fund?
Well, I think his plan was not to go into the general fund. He wants the money from the permits to go into composting.
I would have liked to seen the money offset the cost, because right now, there's about, like I said, $10,000 or $12,000 that is used out of the budget for this. It would be better if the money stayed in the confines to pay for that, to offset that cost. That was my goal.
Well, you said there was like 300 people that bring down a load, and you're talking $25.
Right, so if we're
about
taking $6,500 or so,
Yeah,
you know,
close to 8,000.
6,500 to 8,000 of permits, it would only cover half of what he's paying out on composting,
Right.
if that.
Give or take, yeah.
What would you, use the difference in money for?
He's not gonna cover it, he's not gonna cover his expenses, what he's
It
doing.
wouldn't cover it.
It's not gonna cover
So
it.
you wouldn't go,
Right now, his budget is covering that expense. Okay, so he proposes this yard waste permit, and it
Oh,
goes
I know
through.
what you're saying.
And it decreases his cost from 12 grand to 6 grand.
Right.
What are you gonna do with the other 6 grand?
The other $6 grand that I have, my main focus is to obviously upgrade the roads in this town. That's my main focus.
6 grand ain't gonna get you much road.
Every $6 grand I get gets me somewhere. Every little bit counts.
Okay.
But I just want to understand this one last time, sorry to go back at this again, but we don't have, this is not by law something that has to be in a revolving fund.
It does not, no.
Because revolving funds complicate things, honestly, is my
Yes, they
feeling.
do.
So unless you really need to have it separated like that, we can certainly track how much money comes in from these permits against how much we're paying to have this process done. And we can know how much it's costing the taxpayer out of pocket, if that's what the goal is. But I thought part of this was just to make sure people had a place to get rid of yard waste.
But they already
They
do.
do now.
They
Right,
do now at no
now.
cost.
At no cost. So,
He's trying to offset his budget with the money he can bring in. That's all he's trying to do.
it's making it, I think, overly
Oh, I know,
complicated.
that's why-
I'm not in favor of a lot of revolving funds, a lot of separation of
Conversation only,
funds,
real quick conversation only.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in Swampskit or if it's in, I think it's Swampskit, but it could be Lynn, Swampskit line. And I don't think you have the room there to do it. But one of the biggest problems in this area is contractors, I shouldn't say this because I am one, but whatever, I say it the way it is.
yeah. Go
Have a
ahead.
hard time. I have a place to dump my stuff, by the way. But anyway, they always are trying to find a place to get rid of glass clippings and brush and et cetera, et
Absolutely.
cetera. And they make a lot of money, and it's $350 a permit per company, and that was probably 8 years ago. It's probably more now. But there's some money to be made, but then you have to watch people from other towns coming in. So they issue a permit yearly. It's like 350. They get to dump their stuff, and then it gets processed like you're talking about.
Yep.
But again,
That's a
it
lot of-
takes
that's a
someone
lot
to
of
manage it.
volume, though, right.
There's full-time employees
yeah.
in their highway department or whatever they have.
I know exactly.
You're
I know
not
the
big enough to
facility
do
you're
that, but
talking
I'm just saying, brings them in a lot of money, I know that.
We have enough land, we don't have,
Right.
per se, the manpower
Right.
and equipment that.
Conversation only.
Right.
But I don't, whatever you guys want to do.
Well, I don't think he really needs to put it in a revolving fund. I think as long as we're tracking the permits and you're tracking the amount of money you're spending to do the process, just visit and see how it's going. And it'll be understood at the town meeting that you're offsetting some of the cost of those.
It's a win-win,
Those positions,
regardless of whether it goes into a revolving
Yeah,
account or
it
not.
is.
It's a win for the,
Sounds like
for
a good
the,
idea.
for Groveland, for the town of Groveland. My only goal was to, like I said, use that money to offset the cost. That gives me a little more money in my budget to, put it in areas that we need more attention,
I
that's
don't
all.
know. It's a little bit, it's like a shell game. It's like, just like, if you're already
Sometimes you
doing,
have
the
to
people
play.
are already there. We're already paying for these people to be there to take the dump. So what would be the only additional cost that you would need to offset? What, I'm
The
not sure.
composting,
The compost,
the actual
thought-
cost of
No, I
composting.
thought the company takes care of that.
so the company that comes in will take care of the tub grinding part of it, but we'll still have to have people on staff to manage like the Saturdays and Wednesdays that we have open after hours for people to drop off yard waste, that we do
Which we're
now.
getting done now.
Yeah.
But we already have
Right.
those hours. That's what I'm trying to say, right? We already have those hours.
Right.
We're already
So
doing what
We're
we're
already
doing.
paying that, so
Right.
you don't need to, that's why I keep coming back to, you don't need a revolving account at this point, really.
Well, I think money coming in, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't, so yes, it does not have to go, it can just go into the general fund like every other permit we issue.
Fine, fine.
The request was that it be a revolving fund, so he then gets the money back to put towards the composting.
Whatever, but I just don't, maybe it will grow, but I don't think that you're gonna get more than $3,000 a year out of,
Right.
and I'm thinking that once you put on a $25 fee, a lot of people are gonna start, I'm not taking it down there. You know what I mean? It might slow it
Possible.
down too.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
possible.
I mean,
But it's
I
a
don't-
green,
that's
I
a
think it's
cost
a nice
savings,
green
too.
movement. I think that people hopefully will be supportive of the town taking the yard clippings and all and turning it around to something useful. And I think that's a good endeavor. You don't need to offset it with a revolving account. It's a good idea.
Yep.
So I
Either way.
think float it out there and see how it goes, right? I mean,
Sure.
we're not putting down any additional money right
Nope,
now at all,
nope.
so.
Nope.
Right, so if you're not, if we're not creating a revolving fund, then it's not time sensitive, so as long as I don't need to put it on the warrant, then you guys can discuss it, wait for a
Okay.
contract. It was the time sensitive
I
that
just-
it had to be on the warrant if
I
we
would
were
like to
doing the
see
revolving.
paperwork from Rennie come
Yeah.
back to us with a contract. and what have
Absolutely.
you,
And I tried to rush it, but it's just, I
And then we can move
okay.
on.
just
from
got
there.
him to look at the facility last week, so.
Right,
Okay.
so,
So
does
do-
someone want to make a motion to table that item?
Well, make a motion to support it moving forward, I think. I think it's a good idea. Would that be okay to do?
I don't even think you need to make a motion unless you want to make a motion on
There's
something.
nothing happening here.
He's
right
just
now.
discussing it, so if
Okay,
you're not
fine.
ready to vote, you don't need to do anything.
Move on.
Let's go. Adopt a spot.
So the other thing is adopt an island. Just hand me guys one of these, you guys. Rebecca, put this together.
Oh.
I'm bringing it to you guys.
Thank you.
I don't know,
Do you have one for me, Rennie?
yeah, I'm sorry. Bill,
Thanks.
sorry. I know, Bill Dunn, you've had the island on Salem Street. You know, this is basically just like you see anywhere in any other town. They get to put up their signage. They put in, you know, Town of Groveland. They manage the area. I think, I actually thought when I looked at this, it's actually 3 years. If you look in the, I think in the beginning on page
Yeah, under the agreement, it's 3
yeah,
years.
it's 3 years. No fee is, you know, warranted. This is because we don't really have the ability to make a sign for them, so they'll be responsible for putting up the sign and, you know, keeping this up to our standards as far as the, whatever, you know, plantings they put out there. It'll just be a good way to hopefully get, you know, some small businesses to get their name out there, and at the same time, we get a little work out of them as far as keeping the town in, a little better landscaped areas. And I have a
And
list.
it will be managed by you.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, this will be.
I tried it already
This
before
will-
you were here.
Yeah,
It went nowhere.
Right.
I did the island, but she did a lot of work for this to
Rebecca
get
did,
this
yeah,
all.
yeah.
I was just in a meeting saying, hey, you
Right.
want an island, you can have it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is
But-
something
So
if-
this is a lot more formal, maybe.
yeah, if you guys are up for it, you know, maybe I can get Denise, we can put something out on the web, on the town,
Right.
on the town website, so that people are a little more aware of
It's
it.
gonna bring color to the town, it's gonna
Right.
bring, that's the reason I did it. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, I like to have my name out there, let people know the kind of work I did, but whatever. But it does bring color, and it does bring beautification. I think it's a win-win, myself. I tried it, but.
Can I ask a
fine.
question?
Sure, yeah.
So in the application, it says, what would you like to be written on the Adopt an Island sign, but we're not ordering the signs.
No, they're responsible for the signs.
So are you gonna have a review so that you see what's written on it?
Before anything goes, yes,
Okay.
before anything goes out, there'll be a review, and they have to fall within the standards. Nothing can be more than 18 by 18.
Okay.
It can't be more than 24 inches in height, so even if they put it on a pole or, you know, a planting, it can't be, you know, you can't
Okay.
have something 6 feet tall blocking people's views as they're coming out onto Salem Street looking down school so they can, you know, get onto the road, so.
Okay.
It will be managed, and any, you know, anything that needs to be addressed, I will address promptly.
And then we talked about just briefly today, the people that already had signs out there. So will you go to those folks and send them this and say we have a
Exactly.
new policy?
Exactly, just so they're on board with it, just so that we have a record of it. If they already have stuff out there, like, we'll just make them fill it out, it's, you know, pretty rudimentary.
Is it open to companies and businesses outside the town as well, if they wish?
I don't think there's anything on here that says it isn't.
That's what I thought too,
Yeah,
okay.
there's nothing on here that says it isn't,
That's,
so
I think that's fine.
it opens up
I'm
to.
good with it, I tried it. I mean, anything that beautify the town, I'm good with. Anything you wanna say, Bill?
How many spaces?
I have right now roughly about 9 or 10. I compiled a list, but I don't think I brought it with me. But a lot of the islands that aren't used, like Garrison at Rollins, there's one at Center Street. Actually, no, I think there's someone that does put something on. No, they used to.
That was me years ago.
That was you, that's right.
I just cleaned it up for the neighborhood
Center
because,
Street at Yale, I think it is.
Yeah, there's one there.
So there's a few other spots than just Salem Street at school, is that island. And I didn't include Elm Park, other than down by the clock, because I thought that was kind of,
It's a historic park.
Yeah,
yes,
we didn't
it
want-
can't be
you know what, I'm
Well,
speaking,
but, sorry, we do stuff at the clock and Christmas
at the
time.
clock, right,
and-
that
yeah.
was, yeah.
you know, when if you're coming from here, when you're coming over the bridge,
Yep.
right on the right-hand side, there's like a little area
Oh,
behind the
yeah,
gu-
yeah.
That never gets maintained, but it
Okay.
gets pretty nasty in the summertime, and once it was planted with grass when they did the bridge, but
Right.
then, for whatever happened, they
Not
never got
let
taken
go.
care of.
Right.
But maybe if during the season, you
That
can
could be
keep that,
something.
that gets pretty unsightly.
Okay.
You got businesses right there.
So when you're taking a right on Main, you're saying right there?
Right there in that corner, it's pretty unsightly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for it. I think you got a challenge because some of the places you're talking about are not very high volume, high
Right.
traffic areas, so they're gonna be,
Local businesses, like I said, that's what
Yeah.
I'm mostly trying to go
10 people
after.
might see this sign all day, which is gonna make it
It's gonna need to go
tough.
on the website or something in order to get it out there, but that, I'm.
The ones on the main street are gonna,
Right, there's a couple on Main.
jump on those.
Salem, right.
Yeah, we can put it on the website. It goes to Facebook and Twitter once it goes to websites.
I'm good with it.
Maybe we got
Anyone
lucky.
else?
So you can, if you want to formally adopt the policy, you can
Yeah, I
make a
think we
motion
should
and
on
accept
that.
this.
Vote, make a motion to accept the Adopt a Spot program. How's that?
Yes, can I
Second.
recommend that we change it to adopt an island?
It
as
is
that's what
actually,
it's
it says it on the,
I'm
it says
sorry,
it on the.
Adopt an
Yes.
Yeah,
Island
Adopt an
program.
Island.
There we go,
Adopt an Island is all.
there we go.
Second,
second.
any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, moving on, we have the street sweeper.
So this is some more paperwork I'll hand over to you guys.
Really?
You love me tonight, but.
Not really. More. You got one for Denise too? She's-
Yeah, I have one. Sorry.
Thanks.
So, is this part of your
Thanks.
capital
Oh,
submission?
that's road pavement.
Oh, that pages.
This is.
Thanks.
Yes. So this is the breakdown of the sweeper. Like I told you in the capital
Okay,
improvement
so this is
meeting,
tied to the capital.
this is
plan.
tied to the capital.
Okay.
This is the breakdown, it's a little more accurate as far as the numbers, which I've talked to Denise about. I think we were gonna have to bring it up to increase that amount. I think it was 15, I think it has to go to 18, and some change to get it done. But last year I spent roughly 18,000 sweeping the town once. We sweep it in the spring one time, and then a couple of spots, a couple of the road pavement projects that we did had to be swept before they get final pavement for a clean surface.
Okay, I thought, were we sharing this with Georgetown?
So I have an agreement, a handshake agreement right now, which I'm working out, the fine details, in having agreement put together that they're okay with, that they sign, that we are both on board with paying, doing the maintenance, being insured, so it'll be dual insured with us and with them, so when they have operation of it, it'll just be like we have operation. There'll be some training that's involved when we buy the sweeper that both the mechanics and the operators will get from the company.
So
'Cause
this is
it's,
the total cost, right, what we're
Correct.
looking at? So you plan to share it?
So is this the machine that you talked about, it's gonna be multi-purpose, this is straight sweeper?
this is just a sweeper.
Okay, all right,
This isn't the hook lift truck
all right,
that's
so,
Swiss Army knife now.
okay, all right,
So right now, like I said, we spend about $18,000 a year. We get to sweep once a year. This'll allow us to be compliant with our MS4 reporting as far as we get to sweep more than just the one time. You're supposed to sweep, spring and fall with especially with the leaves. We have a lot of flooding in areas, so we know, late in fall, we're out there, the highway department's out there clearing catch basins by hand. This is something now, we can send the sweeper out a couple days a week as the leaves fall, and we can start picking them up more readily and hopefully end up with less flooding during the rainy season before winter.
Right. It's a good idea if we can share it. If
Absolutely.
otherwise, it's
So-
not worth it.
Right,
so sharing it, do we need to have town council review an agreement?
We do.
right,
I haven't gotten one yet.
yeah. I gotta,
I mean, how are we gonna do the maintenance, split the maintenance, and?
And I will just say, so the lease requires town meeting approval, and I have to check with town council, because last time we discussed a lease, the maximum town meeting could authorize was 5 years, which would make the payment over 25,000. So I will have to talk to town meeting to see if that can be extended out in terms of a lease for town meeting authorization. And town meeting has to authorize the full amount on our dime, so the 229,000 is what town meeting authorizes with an annual lease payment of X. But they have to authorize the actual lease. So depending on what the agreement is, we need to make sure that,
I think the loader was 6 years, the new loader
nope,
that we
it's
had.
5 years on the town meeting warrant.
How much is one of these machines if we were to purchase it ourselves?
The number's there.
229, 760.
230.
I mean, I've looked into used ones, the numbers, unfortunately for a used or a remanufactured one, the numbers for the first couple of years are basically the same. But yes, the total would come down significantly. I think they were around 150 or 160,000. But you're also talking about a piece of equipment that's 7 years old already. So
Yeah,
And
so-
how about, they don't lease them?
this would be a lease to own.
No, I know, but I
Program.
mean like a lease, like, Volvo rents type thing, they don't have them that you can lease them?
Not with these pieces of equipment, they do not.
I have a question more for Denise. If we made a vote to lease contingent on a vote by Georgetown to pay this, they have to vote at their town meeting to approve a certain payment to us. So our vote, because our town meetings are probably on different days, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't know when they're town meeting.
But when you need,
We need the contingent vote, correct? Or what-
It's up to you, yes.
yes.
Well, I
No,
mean,
I
just because
certainly don't wanna-
town meeting can authorize it, doesn't mean we have to go forward with it.
right, but wouldn't you wanna go to town meeting with, yeah, I guess you have a dollar amount now, I mean,
Well, yeah, but we wouldn't bother leasing it, we can, $36,000, we can sweep twice a year, why spend 50? I mean, the only reason we'd spend 50 is if we can split it, otherwise, sweep twice a year for 36,000, we're done, we save money.
you lost me there.
Right, if they're not splitting it, yes,
Right.
if Georgetown doesn't go in on it with us.
$50,000 a year for five years,
Yep,
50,000.
that's us.
So, yeah,
No,
that's
that's
the
the
whole
full-
thing,
Yeah.
right, but if
Yeah, if we don't extend it out to 7 years, obviously, it's not as
we may be
attractive of a deal.
tied to this, however, still, if we're sweeping twice a year,
Right,
Right, no, Kathy's
This-
saying she'd like the vote to be contingent, so that if our town meeting approves it and Georgetown does not, then we're on the hook for 50,000 a year versus 25,000 a year.
exactly,
I don't
So
wanna
she
do-
wants to
Right.
make a vote contingent upon.
Right, right, I
Georgetown's town
agree.
meeting accepting.
right.
yeah, and other than that, I'd like to see it go forward, that's
Well,
all.
I would like to see the agreement and come to terms with Georgetown on what they're paying.
That's what I'm worried about.
In addition to this, I
It's-
want to know what's being paid
Well,
for.
that's what you
It's
do.
not as easy as you think to get two towns to agree on
Right, it
something,
isn't.
that's,
Then you have
it's
to
just
get
not.
the selectmen and
Right,
their
we go
high-
back and forth, I give
we've done this.
ideas and it looks pretty easy, and then let's add this, so we've been back and forth, we're pretty close on the agreement. Peter has assured me that he has already gotten approval from financing because it's coming out of his budget, just like mine. So it's kind of like that same situation he's in. The money's kind of already there, because he spends roughly the same amount of money to sweep Georgetown as I do to sweep
Oh,
Groveland.
I see what you're saying.
So it's almost the same, it's a very similar
But you
situation.
can't do this though without a town meeting vote. right?
Town meeting
Correct.
has to authorize the lease.
Correct.
So we have to.
And he
authorize
has to
it.
do the
So
same
So
thing,
even if the
right.
money's in your budget, you can't do that.
No, I know.
Okay.
I'm just saying that
You
he's
sure?
he's in the same situation as I am.
So right now, every time, if you did it twice a year, you're looking at 36,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right now,
All
that's
of
what
that,
it would cost,
yeah.
36,000.
I got a bill from Hawk,
So
for
36,000,
about
so
almost 16.5.
it's gonna be
I think it was,
cheaper.
To sweep.
to go this route,
And I went
Yes.
paving.
it'd be
Oh,
cheaper.
if we can
But
split it
that's
with
what
George-
Yeah, you're looking at a 6+ year payback.
No, but I'm
If we
saying,
had to
what we're
do the
paying
whole
in
thing.
rental now, or whatever they're calling it,
Yeah.
and if it's gonna be 25,000, we're saving money.
Right,
If-
well, right, we're
if-
only doing once a year now.
Right.
Right.
So yes, to increase to twice a year, we
We're
would be.
increasing it and still
this would
saving.
save money,
Right, but
yes.
that's if you can
Correct.
iron out all the,
Right, and I will say Georgetown, I don't believe needs to go to town meeting, because they're not authorizing the lease. Everything coming under the town of Groveland, we're liable for everything.
Right, well, so we need a contingent
So they need,
on
their
an-
budget needs to approve, they need to approve the budget, but we're approving the lease. It's not a joint lease.
No, but.
why
we
couldn't
need-
it be?
They
No,
won't do
can't.
that.
only one
They
person
won't
can
do a
sign the
joint
lease.
lease.
Only gotta be
Even if
one
we-
lease tried.
No, you can't. But we can make our lease contingent approval
See.
on a certain amount of funding coming from Georgetown.
Correct.
Yes.
That we can do.
That's also
So we
something
can
I'm
make
trying to
our
put in the
vote
agreement.
contingent on a certain amount of funding coming from Georgetown. Yeah,
And what's the guarantee we get that funding year after year after year after year?
At
They
the
said-
town
It's
council.
in the agreement.
that's what
Town
our,
council's got to,
yeah.
Town council's gonna
Yep,
have to
they'll
get
have
the
to.
agreement.
they're gonna
loose.
have to.
Yep.
They're gonna have to. You can't do this
Yeah.
without town council.
What about maintenance and extraordinary
All of
costs of
that?
All
repairs?
be
Share
spelled
all
out.
of it.
It'd be at the contract.
Yep.
It'd have to be a
Share
contract.
everything as far
Fuel.
as maintenance
Fuel.
and the brooms and
Insurance costs.
insurance costs will be split.
Training.
It'll be dual insured, they can insure it.
Great.
So,
Yeah, I just see this as a
Best street
huge.
sweeping agreement ever.
well, I definitely think it's a cost savings, but also think you got a lot of hurdles to go
There's
over as
nothing-
far as.
Anything like
Iron
doing
it all
is
out.
not easy, so.
Oh, I know, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, there's a lot of hurdles we
Well,
gotta go through.
If I could,
We do this once a year, right now?
Once a year. We'll be
Sweep
doing it
once a year,
twice.
we pay a
well,
contractor
we
to do
should
it.
do twice, he says we're not in
So
compliance.
even at once a year, now we're looking at 12-plus year payback at this cost.
But we're, he's,
what do
but
you
he's
mean?
saying we should be sweeping twice a year.
Because we
Should
don't
be
have
sweeping twice a year.
Permitting,
We
we're supposed to
should
be
be.
doing it twice a year.
We're
Yeah,
not doing the
still
job we
6+
should be
years.
doing.
I don't know.
I mean, we should be doing certain, I mean, you can see it on the streets.
I just see adding another town adds extremely huge layer of complexity to this whole
Not really.
design.
Well,
I
that's
don't
what we're
know.
paying him to
Not
do.
really.
So, go
Small-
for it. That's what
I
you're
mean-
getting paid to do.
Georgetown has some pretty talented, guys. We're gonna limit who will operate the equipment. It's
No, I'm
not
just
like
saying
everybody
the-
will have a
that-
free-for-all over there. We're gonna have people that are trained to run it. We have Bill Green, who's a master mechanic. He'll be the only one that will be working on it. The mechanic actually in Georgetown, Billy knows really well, and he gives kudos to him, even saying that he knows what he's doing when it comes to, mechanics and stuff like that, so.
Well, if it's brand new,
And it's brand new, it comes with a, and it
all
comes
you
with a
gotta do is
five.
changing some
Right.
brooms on it for the
I
first 3
think
years
it's a
anyway.
5-year, you get a 3-year, I think if we wanted to, after the 3 years, or before the end of the 3 years, we can extend it.
Right.
I believe, to 5.
Right.
After
So
5
the
years.
first 3
you're on.
years, maintenance is gonna be covered through, unless it's something they butchered.
General maintenance, you have to
Right,
like replace
right.
the brooms,
Not
oil
much.
changes, normal stuff that, you have to do. But
So-
okay.
So what we would need is for you to work with Denise and make sure that there's a financial
Yes.
commitment from Georgetown,
Absolutely.
because this, we could put a placeholder on the warrant for it, but it's not gonna go through if we
Right.
don't have that.
we have to have an agreement from both us in Georgetown, and then council
have to
has
be
to
the
get a
select-
hold
Well,
of it.
we're gonna vote the whole lease, but
Georgetown?
we're not gonna vote it if we don't have that commitment.
No,
from
I would
Georgetown.
recommend in something like this, the board should vote that agreement. Their
No,
their
no,
board
I'm
and your
s-
board.
Right, that's
And
what I
our
just
board.
said. Their board is going to need a vote on behalf of them, and we're gonna need a vote on
Correct,
behalf of us,
correct.
right?
Right, I think where it's an intermutual agreement, I think both
Right, and
boards
then
should
we're
be
gonna have to
approving
let
it.
the agreement be seen through town council.
Oh, right, well, before it gets to the boards to vote, town council
Right,
needs to
that's
review
what I'm
it.
saying.
You think?
I mean, I honestly, I wouldn't have had Georgetown see it until our council. If it's, the liability's all on us, we should have drafted it with council before it went to Georgetown.
Okay.
Okay.
makes
Because I
sense.
think it should be
Well, the only one in
everything protecting our
Georgetown that
interests.
would see it would be Peter. He's not giving it to the board members yet.
Okay. I'll
He
call
has
Mike
to see the
Farrell.
agreement, and
I'll
know
call
what I mean.
Mike tomorrow, he's the town manager over in Georgetown. I'll call him and just chat about the agreement and make sure he's on board with it and see what's going on with it.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the FY 21 budget
So-
request. Oh,
You guys need to discuss though, because what you've approved for capital is only 15,000. So are you willing to increase the capital line item for this project? Because it's not gonna be 15,000 at any of these amounts.
correct.
So in a capital improvement plan, it's 15,000, that's what it came in at originally. So are you okay if we amend the capital plan where it's still coming out of his budget? To just increase it to the cost of,
Oh, I see. what you're saying.
Hopefully the 7-year, which we don't even know if we can do that.
It's coming out of his budget.
No, but it's in there at 15,000 right now.
right, so you approved
You
the
have to amend it
capital
to,
plan.
you have to amend it from 15 to whatever we are now. with the
18.5.
So I don't know if you want, so
18.5,
here's the
something like
plan you approved.
Yeah, it's 15,000. And that's to pay somebody to do it.
No,
No,
that's
that was
what was
him.
part of
That was-
this,
that-
because it was supposed to, you approved a used street sweeper
Oh,
for
that's-
15,000, and that's not the plan any longer.
Oh,
So we have to
One-
increase it.
Yeah.
So what originally came to you was, under the capital request, was a used street sweeper for 15,000 a
you
year.
can you, a used, a
Yes,
used sweeper, we would pay $15,000 a year for how many years?
It was the same.
it was the same, that was the original proposal under capital improvements that came in.
That's why it makes no
Because I don't
sense to
see
get
it
a
going
used one.
across all these years.
It's because it's not a year, it's a one purchase, 15,
No, it was a year.
a year?
Yeah, but so it didn't.
It
fill
was,
in.
it was a $30,000 an annual payment, we were splitting that with Georgetown at
Oh,
15 a year.
For 2 years, for 2 years. Oh,
I don't know that it was no, that's what we requested and recommended.
Oh, okay, no, I'm misunderstanding. I get it now, I see.
So we can either increase it to the
So it's-
25,000,
It's
which
gonna
would
say
be
it's
the,
25,000.
which would be the 5-year, or just allow me the ability to alter it based on what town council says for the lease, but then we have to amend the capital plan before I put it in the warrant.
Okay,
Right, right.
well, let's, I give you, you need
So
a
if the board
motion?
is okay with if you're okay with the concept and with the lease at either one of these amounts, then I can adjust the capital plan accordingly. But I
have
don't
no
want to vote a
problem.
capital plan with incorrect information
I have
in
no
it.
problem with that. As long as it doesn't, well, I'm sure you'll be able to handle it, but no, as long as it doesn't get too crazy.
Well, as long as we see the document, and we don't have your documents here on, I mean, do we know? This is just,
I think that's all the lease agreement.
I don't think-
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
just a
really-
lease agreement.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, so all that has to check out, but,
Eh.
yeah.
For the 5 year, or even for the 7 year, that's definitely a firm number, right? That's a firm.
Correct. If you
it's not
read,
gonna-
if you read the lease, I think that number is good till
March 30th.
the end of this month, correct?
Okay, all right.
So, but town meeting's not
I
until
know.
April.
Yep,
So-
so we would need them
So
to
it's kind
hold
of,
that.
So the
kind of talking
increase-
hypothetical numbers.
Yeah.
The
Hopefully
increase
they-
from there wouldn't be hopefully too substantial, but it would be something, I'm guessing, unless we got a leftover
Why?
model.
Why would it increase?
Because they locked it until the March.
Because the
Okay, but-
interest rate is only good for this
Yeah,
month.
the interest, it's.
Town meeting isn't, we're not buying it until July, and town meeting
This is
isn't
60
until
days.
April.
I mean, this is,
Okay,
this is
but-
from 60 days, so.
I know, but I mean,
Yeah, it's, how much would it increase? I don't,
it shouldn't.
it shouldn't, right.
Yeah, and interest rates are supposed to be going down anyway. That's what they're saying. That's what we're hoping.
Right.
Dump 'em.
So, do we want to make a motion?
Do you need us to vote a motion on this?
You should at least vote that we're adjusting the capital plan, if that's what you're,
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjust the capital plan contingent on a shared agreement with Georgetown contributing 50% of the cost of what we're looking at here on the high end at $50,000. If it starts to change a lot beyond this number, then yeah, I'd want to revisit it.
so the warrant has to be done in a few weeks, so what if this isn't tied up in a few weeks? Are we gonna come back at a meeting here and discuss it before I finalize the warrant? Because you're making it contingent upon everything working out with the town, so what if that's not
But
done?
how do you know town council's going to be able to do their due diligence in that period of time?
Right, so I'm just asking,
Lot
if
of
we're
it.
making it contingent upon all that,
Well, what I would say is if we can't have this at least ironed out in 2 weeks, then we can go back to what we're doing right now, sweeping once a year and get this moving forward for the next year. I mean, I'm not gonna roll into it without knowing what we're rolling into,
I agree.
right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not gonna get in bed with somebody before,
Right.
turn off the lights.
Okay, so
So, I'm not making that
So,
motion. Let us off the table.
now we lost the motion again.
well, so then you really wanna table the whole item until before we finalize the
I
warrant.
make a motion, table
My
it till we
preference.
finalize the warrant. There we go. You
Okay.
second it?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
You can't discuss table
All right,
anyway.
so we'll have to bring it back up again,
Yeah.
once you get us some more information.
Okay.
I'll go on the agreement and then we'll
Yeah.
worry about it.
Details are much more solidified than,
Okay, so now we're moving on to the FY '21 budget request. Salary merit increase as well.
I really hate the way this follows.
I know, I'm sorry.
I know.
It will change next year.
I mean, you can read it, it's just a weird font. Little boxes. And these are the percent increases in the outside line here.
Yes, correct.
That's 100%. Ew. So are we doing the whole budget tonight?
Well, the whole budget and the merit increase, yes, they're both on there.
Okay.
Do you wanna give us a layout, or you want us to
Sure, I
start?
didn't know if you were looking through
Well,
your.
I don't know, I, for someone to say something.
Well,
I
either
didn't know if
way,
you were reading up on.
I mean, I'll say the same
Budget.
thing I said to the Board of Health. We don't have a mechanism for merit increase.
But-
It's
Okay.
not fair. We don't have it. To start handing it out right now without having a basis for it and a evaluation system for it, I think is kind of unfair.
But
Um,
like I said to
That's where
her,
I come from.
when we hired you, we hired you based on a, interview, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Has something changed?
A few things have. I know the town, the tree warden job was something that was, I think it went from elected
To a point, to
to
you.
appointed.
To
and then
you.
Yeah, exactly, to me.
You caught that, right?
So yeah, that was something that happened. I think I was only on the job for a shorter period of time. I think that happened at town meeting even that April. That was something that was taken on by me. You know, the Pines bathroom was finished, and there's management down there that needs to be addressed as well. I know you guys hired me to look over some contractors and stuff that goes on in town that should start picking up, I think, you know, in this spring coming up. So there are certainly things that have fallen on me that weren't discussed in my job description originally.
So that being said, as you know, and I think a lot of people know, I was a big advocate for you. And one of the things were, when we sat with you, at least I know I said, that your job would probably down the road be morphed into a supervisor or highway supervisor, whatever you wanna call it,
Facilities.
facilities. The tree warden, it might have happened, but that job doesn't take an awful lot, does it? Does that job take an awful lot of time?
It's
Drive around?
It's significant enough that you deal with enough calls during the season that, and emails. I think I have about just under $10,000 left in that $25,000 budget. There's 4 trees that residents have called me about on Center Street. There's there's 2 at the corners of Byfield, the 5 corners there, Byfield,
get it.
Bear Hill. I mean, is it, taxing to the point where I need a secretary to take care of it? No, but there's certainly residents, people call,
But if you're here,
emails.
and I'm not trying to be wise when I
No,
say
I
this,
know.
and you know how
Go
I
ahead.
am. If you're here on the ground every day, you're
Yep.
here for 40 hours or 39 hours a week.
Or more,
If you're
yeah.
here, whatever. The point is, if you're here and someone calls on a tree, or if they call on a curb, or if they call on a puddle, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're there, you know what I mean? And then, as far as the pines go, I was under the assumption that, and I was also, as far as the contractors go, I was under the assumption that would be something that you'd be handling, and I've had a conversation between me and you already, and I said, you know, I personally expect you to be doing this stuff. That was me, you know what I mean? Like, and I think what happens sometimes, getting it from where it's being done now to get it over to you, that has to take place. And I'm not sure that's taking place, but
Can I ask what the contractor issue is?
I'm
What-
not
what does that
understanding
mean?
this conversation
Handling
at all.
contractors.
because I think what he's saying, and I think what we're talked about, is when we hire contractors in town, that his job would have been to look over the jobs getting done.
But
Correct.
I guess I don't understand that. His
Neither
job
do
is
I.
still to look over highway contractors. Why would there be any different?
I don't know.
I don't know what that- I just don't know what that
I just wrote down
means.
contractors.
I was talking about at the Pines, that's all. Like
No,
the
but-
park that went in, the oversee of that, the finishing of that, like the stuff that I didn't know about when I first got here, that's all.
Right, but I think part of your initial interview, and I think it was in your job description, was to assist me with all the facility maintenance, because I shouldn't be doing all the facility work, and I am. And I handled all those things at the, I mean, I was down there meeting with the playground guy. So I guess, I don't know what contractors you would be dealing with that are Pine-specific that I don't deal with or haven't been dealing with.
That's what we're discussing, is the ones at the Pines, or the facility stuff that I should be handling, that you are handling.
Right, but that's
that-
in your job description.
That's where I'm going. It's in
know.
your job description. That's where I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to be, that's how I originally thought this was gonna go down. I thought you were gonna be doing that, and that's the conversation you're asking. I've had conversations with him in the past,
Okay.
saying to him, I expected that you would be doing this and that you would be
Okay.
doing that, et cetera, et cetera. That's the conversation, that's all. And,
So when you say like, oh, you mean like with the installation of the playground?
yeah.
At the highway?
She's a
people-
finance director, she doesn't belong down
So-
there, and I know,
so
I'm not
they-
blaming Rennie at all, I'm not. We need to get to the point in this town where if we're gonna put a playground on the Bagnell,
Mm-hmm.
that's his job, to go down there and manage it, see it get done on time, and manage with the contractor, and then they say, Rennie says, okay, Denise, pay this, it's good to go. it's done right, it's done to code, et cetera. That's what I thought we were hiring.
Well-
And I'm not saying that, I don't think we're there yet, that's all I'm saying.
Right, and I hear what you're saying, but I also thought that Mike Dempsey spoke about that when you use the CPA funds, you can put aside some money towards a project manager if that's what you want. Is that right? Did I understand?
We talked about that before, yes.
Right, so it's kind of like, I wasn't here when you were hired, so I don't know that, I know that, the, Public Works Department is a vision out there in the future at some point, because it would give us a lot of opportunities to share personnel more easily across department lines.
Absolutely.
But we're not there yet, obviously.
No, but that's
Projects,
what,
like special projects that crop up, I think it's great if he's willing to do it, but if
Yeah,
he won't,
I'm a-
I mean, you know, you'll just increase the cost to the taxpayer of these projects.
There's
Chew up more
nothing, there's
CPA
nothing
money.
that I wouldn't do for the town to make it
Okay.
more
Well, that's
cost-effective
good.
or make it, a transition
Okay.
happen easier. That's why you hired me. That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Well, that's good. I understand, you know, people work really hard and go above and beyond. You've been here 1 year and you saw a lot of new things happening. There's been a lot going on this year.
Right.
But we just have a lot of people that put in far more
But-
than they're supposed to. We
and-
can't do the merit right
and
now.
one
We have
thing
no
that,
basis.
one thing that and nothing against you, Rennie, please, you know, one thing I have a hard time is, I sat here and we come up with a road commissioner's, job. We came up with and you may not have been here, we came up
I
with a
wasn't
dollar
here.
amount.
Yeah.
And then one of the board members said, hey, let's throw an engineering, 5,000 for an engineering degree in it. That engineering degree, not that Rennie, nothing to do with Rennie, it never made it in there, but the 5,000 still stayed in there. So we went 5,000 more, and I thought we were going to get, like, not an engineering degree, I'm not complaining about that, I'm just saying, we put more money in that we originally were going to, and I
Okay.
thought these jobs were going to be done, that's all I'm saying.
Right. Okay.
So the job is, and you sat there, you know what I'm talking about. I mean,
Oh.
the money's there. The money's there. That's what I thought. So, I mean, I just would want to, I don't think we're ironed out where we need to be as far as, I don't think you got a clear vision of what we want you to do, maybe. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Well,
And I'm only trying to be fair to you.
I'm trying to get there. That's all.
Right.
No, I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong.
And I will just say, so we did, because part of the reason when we went from an elected road commissioner to appointed highway superintendent, we added more responsibility into the new job and increased the salary.
That's what I'm saying.
The position's making more than Bob was.
I got it.
And we added those additional things, facilities, I mean, we added certain things in there. It
Right.
talks about the tree warden in the job
Right.
description.
Right.
So we specifically put other things in to increase the value of the position.
Right, and again, in all the fairness to everyone that comes here, what happens is, we hire these people, but I don't know, we don't have a town manager, or we don't have someone at the top that's sitting there saying, okay, you gotta do this, this, and this, you know, it's so much left out in the opening that needs to really be tightened up, you know what I'm trying to say? Am I correct when I say that? I don't-
You have to kind of be,
I
you have to
mean,
be
I-
self-motivated in these positions anyways.
No, no,
Part of it
I-
is being
I
self-motivated
get what you're- I
and taking the
clearly
bull by
get
the
what you're saying,
horn,
but-
so to speak, so.
You're dealing with a board that works every other Monday, okay? The board's your boss, right? So, there you go. So there's the disconnect. But anyway,
Well, I think that is part of the disconnect.
yeah.
I don't think necessarily we are the boss, but as I explained to Rennie during his initial interview, this job is, I'd say, 85, 90% customer service. It really is.
Yeah.
And Mr. Arkalian, your predecessor, really, I think, did an outstanding job in that customer service element. But I'll be frank with you, I do get a lot of calls and emails wondering how to get in touch with you. They can't find you during the day, and that's alarming to me because I don't know what you're doing or where you are, and I know we continue to pay you a salary. So when the taxpayers or the citizens call and they email and say, I can't get a hold of Rennie, do you know where he is? Can I get a hold of him?
To the wrong facility, because I've been sitting in that office for 10 hours today, and most days I'm in there, at least 60, 70% of the day I'm there. So, I mean, when you walk up to my door, there's a sign there that has my number, my email, my cell number on it. There's There's all the advances of technology to get in touch with me. So I don't know where they're going, but I'm there for a better part of the day. I'm there, more than 50% on almost every occasion. If I'm outside of the office, it's probably because there's a storm or it's something that needs to be addressed by a resident. But I'm there frankly most of the day.
Well, I'll try to get more information when somebody says I can't find
Yeah,
you,
absolutely.
that, where they are and where
Yeah.
they're looking. As far as contractors go, I know there was a huge faux pas back in the spring with Center Street, with the closing of that main thoroughfare through the town, with less than 24 hours' notice to us. That was, I'm almost positive that'll never happen again under your watch.
That was not under my control at all. That was the contractor at the time.
Yeah, and I think we had that conversation. I think you need to push back on those contracts and say, you cannot put me in the position where you're gonna shut down a major thoroughfare between the town, and I'm gonna give the board and the residents
Yeah, I
less than
think we had-
24 hours' notice. We can't do that.
I thought we had 48 hours, but you might be right. It might have only been 24.
Yeah, because I know it's about 24 when I got the email, and I said, this can't be right.
I mean, you got my, when I put out my road, which I'll do in the next week or so for road pavement, I usually put stuff out 2 weeks before I do it.
Yep, and that's,
If I can
should
do
be
it-
plenty of time, plenty of notice
If I can
for people
schedule
to make.
further, I do, but typically
arrangements.
it's at least 2 weeks.
Yep. Now, I'm gonna get off the merit, because I want to speak to your budget. I see that snow and ice, you're calling for a 10% increase, which I'm not opposed to. New England is very difficult to predict. I know we've tried to increase it every year a little bit. I think we're under now.
We are, but we increased that significantly over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
We-
I
we've
mean, I
been-
personally would be against increasing the snow and ice budget at this point. I think we need to wait and see where we stand.
After one big
Because
snow season.
once you increase it, then you can't decrease
Right,
it.
the state doesn't allow you to go
Yes.
backwards, so I'd rather not increase snow and ice. We
That's a
have the
good point
ability to
that I didn't know
deficit spend,
Yeah, I think
in the
we're-
event that we
But
need
this year
to.
We're lucky we got,
But this
I mean-
year's not a harsh year, so it's
No.
not a good year to judge.
Correct, and, you know, yes, we've had the years that
Right.
we've made 6 and 7 transfers, and then we've had the years that there's money left over at the end of the year.
Right.
We
It's a-
have
it's a
increased
crapshoot, I get it.
Right, we went from 165 up to the 225, and the finance board made a conscious effort to do that. I personally think we should leave it at the 225 for at least next fiscal year and see how it plays out before we start increasing that line item.
How are we trending right now?
we're in good shape.
We're trending well.
It's,
I
about
think I asked you last
60,000,
meeting,
55,000 left, I think. I just had my budget thing out.
and not that I want to jinx us or anything, because it happened to us in March 4 years
62,000
ago.
is left, we've spent 72% of the budget,
So unless we get 4 consecutive nor'easters in this month,
It's happened.
which happened in March of 2015.
believe me, I know, that's why I'm, knock
Let's
on
be
wood,
on
it doesn't
there.
happen
Really?
again.
You had to say it, you had to say it.
So I'll get on to the next line item. Road machinery expense, an increase of 20%.
I said
Basically-
10%. Where do you,
No, that's snow and ice, yeah,
road machinery?
right, but the
Is,
numbers are different than what's on his cover letter.
Are they?
Yes, they are.
This budget is different from a cover letter? Why?
Well, I'm just saying, the road machinery expense on the budget itself is up 20% versus the cover letter.
Yes, it did go up. I did adjust it
So the
differently.
cover letter doesn't match.
The cover letter did not match my
Oh, it has the right
spreadsheet.
number, that's 66,000.
Yeah, it does. It's 66,000. It's 20%. It's a 20% increase.
Right, from
So you should
55
say
to
20%.
66. Is there a, I guess, what
11,000.
causes the need to increase it by 20%?
Okay,
I think,
go ahead, sorry.
I think, Bill this year is right around 12,000 or 14. I mean, it says 14 here, but I'm pretty sure it's less than that, but it's close. We do have a need, and I talked to Denise about this, and I know we talked about it in the capital improvement. We have a 6-wheeler that's in dire need of, a remake, where the frame on the, truck is getting to beyond just, quick scrape and paint. It's gotta go out to a professional, it's gotta be needle scaled, brought down to metal, recoated, and painted. If we don't do that, we trend in the way of losing that truck in the next couple of years to rot, and then it won't pass inspection, it won't be a safe vehicle. The truck has, it's, even though it's, 10 years old or 11 years old, it still has viable life to it. It's only got 35 or 40,000 miles on it. It's just the harsh winters and the salt that we deal with.
Right.
So-
And this is the truck that we talked about when you were before us.
Correct.
And we said, let's go with the 1-ton, let's stay away from the big truck.
Correct.
And you thought between 11 and 16,000 that night, you needed to.
Correct.
To rehash it.
I'm gonna get 3 quotes. My first one is around 12,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm waiting to hear back from another contractor for my second one.
Go ahead.
So my recommendation, actually, when we go through the budget itself, is going to be to level fund this line item and put a $15,000 free cash expenditure, because it's a one-time expense. We should not be increasing the budget
Right, it's not a
by a
recurring
total amount.
expense.
It's not a recurring cost.
Correct.
So I would recommend level funding that line item, and we put 15,000 in an account to rehab the 6-wheel or 6-ton, whatever it's called,
that makes
truck.
sense.
Because we
Good idea.
have some free cash extra, and then that way, like I said, we're not increasing the total budget.
Right.
On that
And
line.
we can use the free cash. to
Yeah,
do
it'll be a
that.
town meeting vote like all the other, but we have the available funds to do that with.
And how's that trending, the free cash?
Well, we haven't voted, other than the capital projects,
If
we
we
haven't voted
did, if we
anything.
put everything in,
We're fine.
We're fine right now.
okay,
yeah.
okay.
So that was the need for that increase.
That could be a
But I
one-time, then we
digress.
should level
So
fund.
next item would be your road and maintenance expense. It increases by 25%
Correct.
year over year. Can you explain that?
I certainly can. So, you don't have to drive down many roads. I know we all know that the roads in this town, some of them are getting to the point where they're not just, potholes aren't even words you can describe some of them.
Some of them are less desirable than others.
Some of them are very less desirable. As a state, we fall in the 5 worst category for roads. And as far as funding goes, I know we typically, as municipalities, do a 2% increase for budget line items over the past 10 years, 12 years, however long it is. And I know if you look at any stock market or any companies that deal with metal or fuel, those increases are 4 to 5% every year. So we fall further and further behind as the years go on. You can tell by the condition of our roads. Bob Arikalian did a great job with what he had. I know he had big projects. I know he had a lot of stuff, on his plate at the time, but we have roads that need expensive repairs. That's why I think the increase was 25% or 22%.
25%.
So we roughly have about 220,000, give or take, that we get in chapter 90. My road maintenance budget, and I've talked to Denise about this before, is that we typically pull from one line item, which we're gonna get a little better at. We have a fuel line item. We're gonna talk about doing some other things with engineering. So I have one, I can't even say $125,000 of that budget goes into just road construction, because it gets pulled in so many different areas. We should be close to matching what we get in chapter 90 money for this town, especially for the conditions of roads that we're dealing with. So if we get 225,000 and we had, say, $170,000 that was in a road maintenance budget that went to roads, I'd say we were in good shape.
Why should we match it? What does that prove?
It's not that you have to match it, it's just that for the cost of what everything, the calculation they come up with from chapter 90 to give
Yeah.
us our money goes on population, it goes off of
Accepted
what you
road
pay in
miles.
taxes, it goes down, road miles is one of the smallest numbers, but yeah, it goes down what you have for road miles. It doesn't give you a condition on roads, it doesn't give you rural, you know what I mean? It's, the
Yeah.
calculations are they're not very in our favor. So we have to supplement those funds with town funding to
So-
get our roads back to the condition they need to be.
I didn't have the time to take a look at it, but what would be like what has been our trend on chapter 90 over the last 5 years?
For the amount we receive?
Yeah, is it flat, is it up, is it?
No, it's up a little bit. We just got the letter actually today, and it's 219,000 and change for fiscal '21.
So,
But in all fairness, in the last 3 years, all that money didn't go to the roads, because
Correct.
we had to put the money into Route
went to
97.
Route 97.
Engineering, so we weren't getting all that money into our roads.
I know, I'm just trying to understand.
That's why they fell behind.
What is what is the approximate increase we see in chapter 90 from?
Not very
It's
much.
minimal.
Yeah.
It's really
Under
minimal.
2%, under 1%, 2%?
I think it was close to the 219 last year, and it's 219,
hasn't gone up very
545.
It's almost like
Well,
level.
yes and no, because we got an additional bump.
Yeah,
So
this-
if there's money, then the governor will allocate, I think we got 13.
Yeah, this year we got, actually 22,000.
22, so we got
$20 million was
22,000 additional.
disseminated throughout all the towns in the state, so we got they released $20 million for roads. We got $22,700
So when
on
it-
top of our normal
I'm just-
chapter 90.
Yeah, if I could just, I'm just trying to understand. So when it comes in then, if the state already has a project on a state road in our town, they take our chapter 90?
No,
We
get it.
did that.
We get it.
Oh,
We
did.
chose to use our Chapter 90
money.
funds.
Right.
But we split up the cost over 3 or 4 different fiscal years, because we couldn't afford it all with our one-year Chapter
Okay,
90.
so this year's chapter 90 though is not pre-allocated. So you already have an increase right there.
Correct.
Right there. You already have an increase.
Yeah, but he's
No,
behind.
I know that. Here's the dilemma. I mean, the letter that Denise wrote, I thought put it in excellent phrasing. It's not about that Prop 2.5% fully funds every need the town has. It certainly
Correct.
doesn't. It's a balancing act. It's an absolute balancing act. And the only way that I have seen over the last 25 years, 30 years, that we were able to significantly increase money towards road reconstruction was for someone to come up with a road plan and go out for a one-year capital increase, what do you call it, a capital exclusion?
Capital exclusion, yeah.
Capital exclusion vote. That did pass. People saw which streets were on there, they saw where the money was gonna go, and they voted for it. Because in order for us to move these kind of percentages into your budget, we have to take them out of someone else's budget.
Right.
We don't have this money like, sitting there not in use. We've built these budgets right up to the cap because
Yeah.
we're really frugal. But, so we count on all the departments, like, saying, like the police chief did, okay, I won't get the truck this year, I'll try next year. Okay, I won't get this year, I'll get that next
Absolutely.
year. So that's kind of, it's like that kind of a game of, and it's
The
a
shell
game.
game.
It's
I know the
not-
shell game like we were
It's
talking
not the way
about.
ideally you
I
would
know.
want to run and fix every road in town, but if you could come up with a list of roads that you feel are in dire need and how much it costs, moving ahead in the future year, I would say go for a capital exclusion vote.
Kathy,
Yeah.
Bill wants to finish his point.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd
I
like
didn't
to
realize,
finish
Bill,
my
you were in the
question.
middle. Apologize.
The last item on your budget is fuel, which increases, you're calling for 100% increase. I know I buy gas all the time, diesel,
Oh, yeah.
not too much, but it seems the fuel prices have been pretty stable for the last
Yep.
almost 2 years, so are we
So that
getting more
was-
trucks or more use?
No, that was, that actually line item, that was I think that was the first year, or this was the first year that we had that line item, and I think Denise just put in, I think $8,500 as a starting point.
Right, so we estimated what had been used in the
Yeah.
past, and it was
line item.
8,500.
Is,
So I personally, I don't think it
$400
should be
left.
double, because we're, yes, we've spent 94% of it, but there's, 4 months left?
You've got 3, March, April, May, 4 months left.
So I don't think we quite need to double it, but the 8,500 is certainly not enough.
So 85 is not adequate, 17 is probably too much, so we can probably shave, what would you say, 5 off of that?
I think
maybe?
I have 13.5 in my estimates.
that's a reasonable number, I think. I mean, when I threw the 100%, I was looking at my budget,
Yeah.
and me and Denise talked about this afterwards. A lot of the fuel costs go into the snow and ice because most of the fuel gets used when we're out plowing.
Oh, so you
During
charge-
plowing
So
and
that's the
things.
other thing that I probably didn't take into effect at the time, is during winter months.
And then may I make a comment on on the road maintenance expense, if you'll see in the budget request, an additional 18,000 was requested for the sweeper, where originally it was supposed to be included in the budget that was already there. So if you choose to fund the additional 18,000, that's another 18,000 in the road maintenance line that's there that he wouldn't have had, because that's what he's been paying for the street sweeping.
In
Okay.
the 125.
So you'd have to back that out.
Thank you.
So either you back that
Yeah.
out, or you or that's an additional 18,000 in that line that stays if you fund the separate line item, as a full separate line
So
item.
the one hundred and
Thank you,
twenty-five
Mr. Chair. I
thousand.
have no further questions at this time.
Okay.
That
I
one hundred and
appreciate
twenty-five
your
thousand
respect.
Includes the annual street sweeping.
Okay,
Okay, that's.
Yeah, that comes out of my road maintenance
Okay,
budget.
thank you.
Right, so, but yet it's requested
But it's
additionally.
requested additionally, yes.
Rennie,
So, it would be.
real quick.
Yep.
The money for the roads,
Mm-hmm.
is there a way we can dedicate that this year to the roads and not veer off and not spend money? Strictly say, he says we're gonna do X amount of miles of roads, and we dedicate that money this year to road, because the roads are in bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
We need to dedicate it toward the roads. Is there any way, or there's no way to do that?
Well,
That-
chapter 90, that's what chapter 90 is
No, I'm
for.
saying the money that he's talking about over the chapter, the
In the
100
road maintenance expense
Right,
line.
dedicate that toward roads.
So I guess, how much of that is strictly for paving and how
Right.
much of that is for other stuff?
Right.
So, that was, and when you see the sweeper payment, and forgive me because I didn't know much about this software at the time, when I was doing this, my understanding was to take that and create, trying to be cute, like how Denise does her line items, was create another line item for the sweeper.
Okay.
And not add the additional 18, but I couldn't figure out how to pull it out of that budget. But anyhow, that's what I think me and Denise really gotta, focus on, is doing a little more compartmentalizing with my budget, because everything does get pulled out of that one line item for, you know, every different facet of the highway
Do
department.
you have an idea, obviously, of how many miles of road need to be done this year? I mean,
I have a list compiled,
top of your head.
for what we have right now,
How long would it take you to do what you need to get done?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years with the budget I have. 10
So,
years.
with the budget you have, it's like 300 and something, if you, but again, we don't know if you can take that 125 and dedicate it straight to roads.
Last year, out of my budget, I used mainly for grinding. I used not even 50,000. I think it was like $44,000 I used for grinding. And then all the rest of the money from chapter 90, which was only about
You didn't have much,
130,000.
because it wasn't much.
Yeah, it wasn't a
whatever.
full budget because we still had to pay, we all know
Right.
the story.
Engineering.
The engineering.
So Bill, for your point, we could make a separate line item of, and call it paving, so that that money can only be spent on
This is what I'm
paving.
getting at. What happens is, and I'm not saying it's Rennie, and I'm not saying it's whoever, whatever. What happens in the town, we're staring for Peter to pay Paul. And every time, what happens is the roads, the money's not there to do the paving. So we should do another line item for
Right.
paving, and strictly that money goes into paving and it can't be touched.
Right, well, and again, when I came here, everyone
no,
had,
I
no, but
know,
I'm just
I-
saying, everyone
yeah.
had an expense and a payroll.
Right.
We've started to separate
Right,
them. This
right.
department has
Right.
been behind the times on doing
Yep,
that.
right.
So we could take the road maintenance expense, figure out what is gonna be paving,
Right.
and put a separate, split that into two lines, and then
Right.
that money can only be used for paving legally.
And one thing that I would
I
like
agree.
to see is you come before the board and say to the board, I'm gonna do X amount of miles of road, you know what it costs per ton laid in and ground and everything else. I wanna do X amount of miles this year, and this is what I need to do that. That's what I would
I'm
like
waiting
see.
to get the figures for
Right.
the cost of asphalt goes up, the cost
I
of
know,
milling goes
I know.
up. I mean, we have contracts in place, but the one contract we will be putting out to bid is the paving contract, and that's the
Right, but you
biggest
have a
one.
rough idea what it costs.
Rough idea, right?
Right.
So once I get my miles compiled, I have a pretty good idea right now.
But the problem is that when town meeting comes, or town budget comes, we need to have that number ahead of us.
Right.
Is Bill all done?
I was done before, yes, thank you.
Oh, okay, thanks. I was just looking at this part where you speak about the paving management program and a mobile app and sidewalk integration program.
Yep.
I think that would help clarify what work is actually going to be done in a year, because
Absolutely.
I think that's been, I agree with Selectman Dunn that the money sometimes, we all think it's gonna be used to do this road, and then all of a sudden it's not doing that road. It would be nice to have something that shows us what is actually gonna get done.
This is just a starter list of roads that are, on my radar for this year. Those are significant projects, every single one of them. They're the 4 major projects. I think you can look at them pretty quick and know that, those are areas of great concern, I think, to residents and anyone that travels on those roads.
Right, I'm just
So-
wondering what this app is, what does it tell you, and what, how does it
So
do
with
things?
that is a road management application. So working with the Merrimack Valley Planning,
Right,
they do an inventory of your sidewalks, your roads. There's a GIS layer
Yeah.
of utilities and so forth that they put into it. That's the starting basis of that, and then they actually have the ability to have a mobile app, so you can actually pull it right up on your phone. If I'm gonna do paving work, I can see when services were done, I can see when how old the main is. There's just, it's a very good tool to have when you get into the reconstruction of a road.
so this isn't an app to let people know which roads
This
would
is-
be
This is a-
prioritized?
No, this is a tool for
Okay, because I was
For
looking
us
to
at
see
town.
some kind of a costing and prioritization. I mean, this list,
well, it definitely will
It's a
give us
list, but-
yeah,
but
that
this
app,
sounded more precise.
that will give us more precise knowledge of what roads and what sidewalks need attention, without having to physically go out and look at them every step of the way.
And then you said in the next paragraph to reapply for this TIP program for Phase 2 of Route 97, but I thought we just said that we were done with that.
No, we
97.
canceled the rest of the Route 97 because it was gonna cost too much. So that's why we only did half of the road, because the
And then-
second half is all the easements with the sidewalks, and
So
we just can't afford that. 'Cause
That's the other
more
thing
Chapter
too, is
90 money.
looking into the TIP program and the way they've changed things.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes so expensive for us to do the right-of-way takings, the engineering. You just fall into there's so many parameters that you have to qualify.
Right.
To get on the TIP program, it just becomes so expensive. I think it'd be more advantageous for us to pick away at redoing the sidewalks and paving that and doing that project in-house, versus,
So you're not going to reapply then?
I don't believe so.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. I'm trying
I've
to get
looked
a
into it, it's
clarification.
just the
Yeah.
parameters for that TIP program have just gotten so expensive.
Right, I
The
understand.
question I have is, you know how the state, the right wording is economical development grants? So Middleton did one, they did their whole downtown over. Most, 4, 5, 6 towns in this area have done it. Could we apply for one of those grants to do that second phase? They're not out there for us?
I don't know that there are
do-
many grants that will allow that type of
No.
easement work.
No, I'm talking about doing the 90, the rest
But
of.
that's what I'm talking about. Do you know how many easements with those sidewalks we have to do?
That
It was
wouldn't-
only a handful with the first half of
There's
that
many more
road.
homes on the section we're planning
But they,
than
they
were
wouldn't, the
before.
grant wouldn't carry the money in it for that.
So believe it or not, the right-of-way takings and all of that stuff, the infrastructure you have to take care of before you do the sidewalks that's part of
No, I
the
know.
requirements under the
I
TIP
thought
program.
maybe the grant would cover all that.
But we can actually
expense.
survey the land and hopefully work with the residents and just get temporary easements to do the sidewalks. If we own the property, we don't have to go get right-of-way takings to redo the sidewalks.
Well, if you're straightening the road, you're taking the land, you would,
Right.
but I mean, you're
We're
not
not
going
gonna
that
do
deep.
that.
I
No,
get it.
we're not gonna go
My
that
point is that
just
if you were going
too
to go
expensive.
and get one of those grants.
Yep.
I didn't know if they put money in
I
for
can- yeah.
engineering and all that stuff.
I can look into it. I think that's more construction, that grant
Okay.
that you're talking about.
Okay,
That's the last question.
sure.
On the last page, you talk about an emergency action plan for the Johnson's Creek Dam.
Correct.
You said it's labeled a significant hazard by the Mass DCR dam safety inspectors.
Yep.
And the inspection that labeled it was in 2017.
Correct.
So that's quite a, so can you explain what,
So the,
what
I'm
are we
just,
talking about here?
so the plan's already, I have all the plan's in effect. I just don't have the hard copies for our emergency management director to sign off on, as well as the fire and police. They'll have, that plan will be here in hardback. I'm waiting for the hardback copies, so that one could be at town hall, one could be here, and then the emergency management director has to sign off on it.
Okay, so I'm concerned, like, what is this plan?
It's
That's
the
what I'm
plan,
worried about.
yeah, the plan comes down to,
We're
it's
shutting
traffic
down a road.
diversions, yeah, if there's no, because where that dam is, there's no significant impact to life, there's nothing really downstream, there's
So
not.
exactly whereabouts are we talking about
That's
this?
Salem, the Salem Street Dam, it's just after,
I was thinking,
that.
If you come on from Washington Street, it's
Yeah,
like
you
right
take a
there.
left
So if you
on
turn
Washington.
onto
Right
I
by
know,
St.
Washington.
I was
Church.
worried about that. So you're talking about needing to shut that down?
Correct, but it's not necessary right now. It's just a plan has to be in action
Okay, I just look at the
In
words.
case it happens.
in case it happens. I know, significant hazard, you'd think that's falling down tomorrow, but it's not the case. It is dilapidated, it's old, I think it was built in the sixties, so it's got some miles on it, but it's not falling down
Well,
tomorrow.
what prompted them to make this,
They do annual inspections, that's what they do. Every year, they'll do an inspection.
so have they inspected it since 2017 and given us any updates on it?
I haven't gotten one,
No, but nothing's changed.
nothing's changed, right?
The requirement of
Okay.
the requirement of the inspection was we had to put together an emergency action plan.
Yeah.
So that if the dam goes tomorrow, we have a
We have a
plan
plan
in
in
place
place.
on
It's
how
more
to
traffic
deal with the
diversion,
traffic
right.
and the impact to the residents and the neighborhood.
Correct.
Versus fixing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond this plan, what about fixing it? What happens now?
I'm gonna, once I get budgeted through next year, I'm gonna look into doing a pipe refit. That's the biggest problem, is the outfall is eroding, it's basically undermining the dam, because
Okay.
this is something that, like I said, was thrown on me day one when I walked in here,
Right.
so, it's probably something that could have or should have been addressed 10 years ago,
Of course,
or longer.
yeah.
But there's a pipe refit that we can do. I'm looking into, having some engineering, obviously, come in and give us some ideas on what to tackle first. But from my understanding, it's a pipe refit would help stabilize that issue, for starters. So it's not like we have to go out and, we don't need $2 million to redo the dam.
Okay, so it's, because it's in your budget letter, I just want to make sure I understand. You
Yep.
feel that you're already budgeted to do what you have to do with this thing this year?
Because I really, we should have a line item for engineering, like we talk about paving.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes on with engineering. I also have the same thing with Lower Center Street. I'm going for a grant for that, because that constantly overflows. The road's too narrow there. If you've ever gone down to the Boxford line, you
Yep.
gotta wait and let the car go. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of a safety hazard down there. So I also have some engineering plan to be done.
This is a much heavier traffic area right there. That's-
It is, and you think because it's significant hazard that, you have that in your head that something's gonna happen, but it's not gonna fall, it's not falling down
I
tomorrow.
asked because you put it in your budget letter,
Yeah.
so I want to make sure
Well,
I understand.
I just wanted to
Okay.
let the town and everybody know that emergency action plan is in place.
Okay, and you're going to distribute it to,
It'll be distributed, and then once the director signs off on it and the police signs off on it, they'll have copies here. There'll be a copy with the clerk, with
Okay.
Beth at town hall, and then
okay,
we're
So-
covered.
that's all. I got.
Sidewalks, talking about doing sidewalks. How are we as far as ADA compliant with sidewalks? Is there any money there? Because we,
We have
I
time.
know that Rebecca's looking into
Okay.
doing a lot of complete street stuff, which.
right, that would be,
Yeah.
okay. Might be some money there, we can,
Yeah, we've talked about, that was another thing that's on the agenda too for this upcoming season is our facility at Town Hall, the sidewalk out there. If we do have to, well, we definitely have to do something there because it's a huge safety concern.
Yeah.
But those mature trees that we have out front there are the culprit
They're the problem.
behind that. So I just want to let the board know that those trees will have to be removed and to remedy that, to start the process of remedying that problem. And I know that
Yeah.
we all love our trees, but when we get done and the project's fixed, we're gonna plant new ones and they'll grow and they'll be flourishing just like those
Okay.
ones. But those ones will have to be removed. There's just no way to go around that.
Yeah.
Cap, have any more for the
I
budget?
think, no, I went through the whole letter and the budget thing.
So, budget, I don't even know where we went with it.
Well, I
We
wrote
talked
down
about increasing,
13,500 for
Right.
fuel
Right, well, I mean, I think
level.
we'll vote on, I mean, I still don't have a balanced budget,
We're
so.
not voting
right.
anything.
We're not ready to
no,
vote
no,
anything.
I'm not saying that, I'm just
Okay.
saying, just to kind of recap.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of gone through and made predictions
Okay.
and made some proposals to try and balance the budget, but we're not there yet. So
Okay,
we'll have to have that discussion when we go budget by budget to see where we stand.
okay. Everyone good with Rennie?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
All
I've
right, well,
answered all
thank
my
you.
questions. I have
No
now.
problem.
I do appreciate that you really advocate for your roads, so you have to, you're gonna have to, because,
I try.
no, it's a tough sell here.
I know it is.
Good, good.
I know it is.
You're doing the right thing.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good night.
You
Yeah.
too.
Okay, so moving on. We have the FY 21 budget discussion and town meeting article discussion.
So I don't have town meeting article discussions quite yet. I've been working on the drafts that have come in of articles. I've been working with town council on a couple of them, so I will have a draft at the next meeting of the full town meeting warrant, provided you will close it under your vote section, but, so I don't have anything on that. Under the budget discussion, I just wanted to throw out a few things, then if you have questions, we can certainly talk about them. I see the superintendent's here. I got a number from the school. It was a little bit more than what we had talked about, but not by much. So the number right now is 9 million, just in the assessment, 9,577,507. That's up 2.83% from last year. The capital assessment, which is obviously all of our capital costs, the new school debt, is 1,472,758. So the school committee has not voted on that yet, but that is the number that they are working
So
with
what-
for us.
Seeing we get the superintendent's here, do you want to come up and have anything to say, or you just,
He's hiding in the back. Sure.
come on up and say
Just
whatever you got to say?
Smile and say, sure.
What'd you get for showing up?
The dirt's going to be dug next week.
Next time I know.
He's brave.
So I would say.
Thank you for coming in. and
No, I
stopping by.
appreciate it. It's good to hear all the ongoings, and there's a lot you guys have on your plate, so.
Could you just state your name for a minute? Tate?
Sorry, that would be Justin Bartholomew as superintendent of Pentucket. So I think the key parts on this are, one, that we have a significant gap, 618,000. It's largely due in part to we have unexpected costs associated with special education. I want to always be clear that it is not the fault of the special education children, but the way the state reimburses special education. But one of the great parts that we have with all three towns is that the relationship. So Denise, Angus, who's from town manager in West Newbury, and Carol, who's the finance director at in Merrimack, they all come together and sit down at the table, and we have a conversation about where we are, what we can and cannot do. The school committee has not yet voted the number. That number will be voted tomorrow night. But as of last meeting, last Tuesday, they indicated they had no desire to try for an override. So that was, I know that's good news. We're not sure what that means for down the road. I actually had a meeting today with Senator Tarr and Representative Mira, just laying out a lot of the issues we have with some huge gaps with the Student Opportunity Act, largely celebrated as this huge influx of money of $1.5 billion over 7 years. However, Pentucket will be receiving approximately $68,000, or 0.3% of that money additional to our budget. And that you can converse that with a lot of other urban districts. We're receiving millions of dollars. So again, we have some of the same struggles, not just Pentucket. Regional districts in particular, but certainly small school districts have these struggles because we do not have large cohorts. And we don't have large cohorts, we have to go to our collaboratives, which are very helpful. It's just that those cost about $60,000 to $70,000 and then transportation on top of that. So when that happens, you're looking at about over $100,000, and there's some very big costs where it's not necessarily educational, it's medical. But that is something that the state has just always put upon the school districts to pay for, even though it's a lot of the really high-ticket items are medical expenses. But again, the partnership has made a huge difference. I think everyone understands where we are, what the challenges are that we're facing. So it's an uphill battle.
Did they, when you were speaking with them, did they have any good news or any?
They're good listeners.
Did they?
You know Bruce.
No, so what they
Listen well?
Yeah, so what North Shore superintendents work together. We meet often, and they both said the work that we had done last year, just identifying special education as a huge concern that everyone is facing. It doesn't matter if you're rural or urban, is a key factor. And that's why in the Student Opportunity Act, you saw there's a part of there that will fund special education transportation out of district at 25% in fiscal year 21, 50% 22, and then it gradually goes up to 100%, which would be amazing.
Yeah.
but that's subject to appropriation. And subject to appropriation means if the money is available, then you can put it towards that. And I'm not super confident that that money will be available, but we'll see. If it is available, it would be an extremely welcome relief to our school district, but districts across the state. So that's some.
Do
good
you
news.
see any way out in the horizon to try and resolve this?
Not the way.
Not putting you on the spot.
Yeah, that's right. Not the way that things are structured right now. I think there has to be some significant changes. There has to be some level of oversight. It's not a problem that was made overnight, so it won't be a problem that will be solved in a year.
Right.
But I do think if we can get together, again, with the superintendents and some legislators and just explain. When I meet with them, I'm actually able to give them real situations that we have dealt with just this year. And when you go through those scenarios, they're shocked. Because, they're jack of all trades. They're
Right.
trying to get it. So
Yeah.
when you go through situations that should not exist that do, and that we bear the financial burden for, it throws them off. So I think there is certainly an appetite for them
Right.
to do this. The question is, for a lot of, we are not in an urban area, we don't have the strong representation in numbers, so can you convince other key legislators that new legislation would be necessary?
Do you think it would be good to put the 3 towns, Selectmen,
Yes.
you, the 3 towns, and invite them in to a meeting?
Yeah, I think
To
so.
hear us?
So I would say that.
I think we talked about this with Denise and me
Yep.
and you
Yeah,
before.
I actually think using the superintendents
Yep.
in the North Shore, the South Shore has the same problems as does the western part of the state. Using the North Shore superintendents as a starting point, I think is a great area to be. And then I would say, not even just for that one particular issue, but just the school budget as a whole might be
Right.
good to bring everybody together.
Right.
Just to lay out, hey, here's what is going on.
And I'll just say to that, so I'm part of the Town Managers and Mayors Association for the region through Merrimack Valley Planning, and we have legislative meetings once a quarter, and special education cost comes up every single time, and we're in a room with 8 or 9 legislators from this whole area that, and they sympathize, but the problem is they represent very small communities, and when they sit at the State House and they're
Right.
voting against those that represent Boston,
Right.
they're outvoted every time,
I
because you
know.
have the big cities.
Or Brockton.
And they're just
or Fall
outnumbered when
River.
it comes to the legislature.
And I've had conversations with the senator and the representative, and what they relayed to me is, you gotta get a group of people together, you gotta get a coalition together.
That's right.
You can't fight it yourself, Bill, it ain't gonna happen, and I'm kinda learning this now with this Washington Street building I'm trying to do. The more people I bring on, and now it's getting heard, and then they're bringing more people. So maybe, I'm just saying, if you got a bigger coalition of people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean, like
so-
you're saying, the superintendents or whatever, you know
Yep,
what I mean?
so we need to get together and highlight 3 to 5 key issues
Right.
within
Right.
that exist, and start small, but then bring in the legislators, and they're good about getting their peers involved and bringing them to these events. And if we start there and then spread the word, I think it's a huge help. I think what the most important thing is that we don't lose track of the fact that we're doing this for the children,
Right.
not just special education, but all children.
Right. For the
Because
district.
for our district and for any district that
Yep.
will be impacted by this, because as soon as you start siphoning money away from the public schools
Yep.
and going to private schools, if that's what a child needs, and that's what a child needs, that's fine. But then public schools aren't able to do their job for the special education children and the regular education children that are left behind in that district. And that is a very real challenge we're facing.
Anyone have anything
Well, I was
else?
glad I came tonight. This is good.
You good with that, Superintendent?
No, I understand his challenge, and a lot of it is getting the folks in the inner cities, the representatives there, to be willing to give up some of their money, which they're never willing to do.
Yeah, so, yeah.
They can never get enough.
I don't know if you remember, like 4 or 5 years ago, Triton started to spearhead. We were doing like a letter writing campaign of all the regional school districts, because we're in the minority when it comes to the state support,
Yeah,
regional schools and small towns.
Absolutely, because when it gets to Beacon Hill,
Yep.
the power resides in the biggest cities in the Commonwealth, and they have the clout to pull the money in, and the rest of us fend for yourselves.
Yep.
Right, and
But I
that's,
think it starts with the federal government, who doesn't fund any of these Head Start, No Child Left Behind, you name it. They mandate it, they never fully fund it, and they shove it down the throat of every citizen and taxpayer in the towns and cities, not only in this Commonwealth, but around the country. But we have a 17% increase in the military budget, and we probably took a 2% hit in the education budget. Somebody has to make sense, I never understand the logic, so maybe somebody someday
I don't
can
think there's enough
explain that
time
to
to
me.
address, but I will say, I think it's appropriate, certainly the urban districts are in a different situation, they certainly could use funds. My concern there is, there's always this trend where if a district was operating on $100 million and then they're receiving $20 million because of the Student Opportunity Act, they should have $120 million, and they will that first year. The question is, in the second year, is that going to go back down to 100 because they're going to take the 20 million and reappropriate to do roads or something like that? And that's a pretty common practice across the United States, whether it's with lottery funds or any other types of funds that come in, and that would be the shame of it.
So the money's not protected.
So it is, the money that they receive, that 20 million is protected, and it has to be described how it will be used to improve that school district.
Yeah.
But the initial money that came from that municipality is not necessarily protected.
Okay.
So we can sit there, and then it's just whoever is getting the money is getting that money. And
Right.
it's,
But
and as
you-
opposed to, like I always like to say, like $68,000. We have to write a whole report on how we're going to use $68,000.
Unbelievable.
Not in a school.
Probably won't take you long.
Well,
We get $3,500 for Uber, and I have to file a report every year on how we're spending the $3,500 on the
outstanding, yeah.
share riding tax.
So will this budget fit in, do you think, this assessment that he's describing?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the number that I've been working around. I think we can make it work when we have some discussions on overall, when we start voting the budget. I'm confident that that's the number we can work with.
Okay.
and then and I know Denise saw these numbers, and I see that sheet in front of her, so it's going to treat her.
With all
We
my
did not
notes on
get-
top of it.
But we did not get help
I mean, at least
from
they're
the
nice
GIC.
Oh, yeah, the
Because
GIC,
we
yes.
we were hoping to have about 5%, so we could have saved maybe about 120 in our projection budget, but we were only able to save, instead of the 120,000, we were only able to save about $30,000.
Yes, so
and
that was my
is-
next item.
That hurt.
So the health insurance is going up an average of 7%, which is the highest it's been since I've been with the GIC before I came here, 8 or 9 years now. It's the highest it's been in a long time. I did not estimate 7% in the budget, so I had to go back and rework what it will impact us. So thankfully, we don't have a lot of people in it. It's not
We
like
do.
a Pentucket that has a lot. But it's a big impact.
Is it worth looking around at anything else?
It's still the cheapest you're gonna find, because they can blend those rates over hundreds of thousands of employees, versus when you get to a smaller plan, you own all responsibility of
Yeah.
the claims. So that didn't help us at all, the GIC stuff.
So are you all good with superintendent?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Well, thank you for
I
stopping
think.
by.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Appreciate it as always, thank you.
It's good
And
to
we'll
see
get
you.
into a much more, a deeper dive into the school budget later on, is that what?
So
the-
the selectmen of the last few years have not requested the school to come before the board. The finance board has. So we could certainly, we can pick a night, or if you all want to attend the finance meeting, they're meeting April 1st. However you would like to handle it.
I don't mind a joint meeting if you want.
Yeah, I definitely have some questions, so April 1st?
They're meeting April 1st. We were trying to get Whittier in, but they have I guess there's a large retirement party that night, so
Oh,
they
wait,
cannot.
I think I'm going to that.
So they cannot attend, but we have
Whoops.
Pentucket, that's the only
You
thing
guys go
scheduled,
ahead.
so it could easily be a joint meeting, or, like I said, we could hold it in the big room. Oh, no, there's a zoning board meeting, but we could still have it here if we needed to.
Oh, yeah, this one's.
Or we can schedule them, however you want to do it, Bill.
He's the boss, whatever.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, probably.
Whatever you guys think is appropriate. I mean, I think that the more we talk and the more people that are in front of us, I definitely think it's a good thing.
I mean, I would say, Bill, wait until, so the number.
When it
and-
comes
and-
in.
Right, and the superintendent can correct me, but the number that they're presenting doesn't necessarily include all of the cuts. They can do that after. As you know, schools are a line item, just one number. Then they can make the cuts behind the scenes. So you may not know the specific detail that's changing with their recommended budget.
Yeah,
So
I-
that number is probably all out, that book is probably all outdated because they're cutting 618,000 or so.
That's correct. So after the GIC, we have to make some more adjustments. But what we do is the school committee tomorrow will vote a number. What we will show them tomorrow, however, is a list of these are options of how we can get to that number. And they give the opportunity to just take a look at that, see if there's anything that they're dead set against. And certainly Greg, myself, the assistant superintendent, we do the same thing. But I have a list right now of things that if we could live with in terms of cuts. But there's,
At what point in time does it get to the point where you can't do your job right? You know what I mean? It just gets crazy.
so, you know, I will tell you, we are not an extravagant district. We're a regional school district. We have a very small central services, and that's relative to obviously any other big place, but even some of the vocational schools, we are extremely small. We have a principal and an assistant principal at each building. We have classroom sizes that are in the low 20s, depending on what school you're at. And the way this ends up playing out is either there ends up being an increase coming from the state, or, you know, there's not much to cut back. So we look at it from what has the least amount of impact, and you can only take away so many pencils and paper, and so much paper. And that just isn't a big money. So then you're starting to look at people. And we're looking at people and from every walk of employment within our district, whether it's a teacher, or an administrator, or a custodian, a clerical, I mean, we're looking at it all. But it's what is the least impactful. But sooner or later, you can't make up these huge gaps by,
Right, but then you're building a new high school, right?
Yep.
And they're making you trim down to nothing, so now you got this brand-new high school, and you gotta put people in it to teach, and teach the right way to the state of the art of the new school, and you can't even do it. I mean, the whole thing is just retarded.
It will be similar to like we've talked about, if we want to add certain services,
Right.
it's going to get to a point that we're going to have to go for an override.
Right,
We
right.
can't absorb increases in our,
But
within our 2.5.
63% of our budget's already on the
Correct.
schools,
So,
So, and one of
it will get to that more than likely once a new school is built. I mean, they're gonna
Right.
have, they're gonna have additional
one of
expenses.
the examples we spoke to the legislators this morning about, and again, it was just the two of them, and, you know, you've all spoken with them, very, very approachable. But we, next year, will be staring down, having to front over $2 million for 6 students. So we have to front that. Who has that kind of money in a district ours? We just don't. Fortunately, Greg is pretty savvy, but even he, so we're asking the state immediately. There used to be a pothole fund.
Yeah, I've heard about
Okay,
that.
so that has gone away, so we're asking that to be reinstated because we
Yeah.
can't front that. We have to find a way to do that, but if trends like that are not corrected, yeah, we will struggle.
Can I ask one additional question, just because someone came in my office last week, and I don't know what conversation took place at the school committee meeting, but someone asked me about full-day kindergarten.
Yes.
So is that going forward? Is that in the proposal with the cuts? I told her she'd have to talk to the
That's a good
school.
So, yes, so the two, well, I fill you in on some. So the 3 things we had initially sought were full-day kindergarten, adding one-to-one Chromebooks for 7th grade and 8th graders, and then 9 through 12 would take whatever we already have, and then removing all student fees. So the school committee rejected the removing student fees because ours are already half of what anybody's are around. And there's a trend to possibly increase them, which is fine. But we took the position of, taxpayers had already paid for $92 million worth of a building project. The Chromebooks actually had a great email. A student attended the budget meeting as well and sent an email and said, hey, I think that's wonderful. We already do, and we know they do a bring your own device. But we could survey the students to see who already has Chromebooks that would be appropriate to use at school, so we wouldn't have to buy the full amount, and we could maybe save money there. But full-day kindergarten, yes, that is one that we think we are going to move forward with. Just So if you ballpark 200 students, 200 kindergartners, we only get reimbursed for 100 because we only have part-time kindergarten. So no matter what, even if they stay all day and they pay, we only get reimbursement for our 100. So we would get reimbursed the full amount. And we knew this day was coming. And when I got here, Greg knew this day was coming. So he had already started putting away for that one-time cost. And it's a one-time cost that gets reimbursed by the state. But not all of the cost is, but a large portion of it.
So no more buses at half-day, huh? That's it.
Which is a savings, which ends up being about a $67,000 savings, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, if I'm correct, is we need to lean in on our legislators more to find more funding, or we need to change our legislators
Yeah,
in order to find more money.
So I think it has a lot to do with, one, focusing on the 3 to 5 critical points, but then more importantly, changing the way that some of our systems are being applied. So when you look at oversight on special education, there's not a lot of it. And for us, it's 34% of our budget. I think North Shore-wide, it averages would be about 30%. So when you have those kinds of funds being committed to one area, one aspect of education, I think behooves any state or commonwealth to kind of make sure it's, you just because you have means that you can't force your way into a situation you want. The school's often put in a situation where we have to make a decision whether or not to go through litigation or just to settle. And most schools will just settle. I philosophically cannot just settle. If I look at the child and what is best for that child and what the law says we have to provide, and that's what we end up doing. Not just because someone wants to bully their way through. And that's oftentimes what does happen. So hopefully they can add some more layers I'm not trying to add layers, but help us with some oversight, trying to flex some arms, saying here are the requirements of what has to be met in order for a child to leave the district, as opposed to, and more importantly, I think the medical part, we are not taking care of children for educational reasons. We're taking care of children because of medical situations. And I think there's a lot of hesitancy to put that on the insurance companies because instead of a 7%, they're concerned there'll be a
20%.
Exactly. But it's ironic. We educate children from the hours of, face-to-face. We educate them from 7:30 to 3:30. But we are paying for children 24/7, 365. And again, those children need where they are. They need to be there.
But we've had this conversation, not with you, but we've had it with the legislations, and we said, it isn't, and I'm gonna get myself in trouble again, but anyway. It's gonna go on Facebook tomorrow morning, but they're not in our school,
Go ahead.
they're in there for, 8-10 hours a day, and we're paying around the clock. I get what you just said, I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
But my point was, and I said it, the state needs to kick in more money for the other part of the time they're not there, and they weren't willing to do that, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
You know it.
absolutely.
So what we had said, when we had talked to the legislators, they said, listen, you small towns need a voice. You don't have a good voice. Unfortunately, the cities, Springfield, Boston, all the big cities, Haverhill, they have a good voice. They have a big voice. They're being heard way quicker than you guys are being heard.
Yeah.
So you gotta get a big voice, put a bunch of people together, whatever, and it's gonna help. I don't know if it will or not, but,
Well,
and I wasn't saying it because I wasn't being fair that I don't wanna pay for the kids around the clock. I was just saying, the
Oh, sure,
state
I
should be
understand
kicking
that,
in
yeah.
for the portion when they're not in our school, they should be helping us at least for that portion.
I think, so I think, and I don't know if we talked to legislators if they would say this, but it was kind of look the other way. We're gonna charge this to education. We're not gonna charge this to health.
Right,
And that seems to be something inherently wrong with that.
agreed.
All you're doing is hurting the children. You're
Right,
not.
right.
I thought our legislature's supposed to be a loud voice. Maybe I missed something.
Well, I think what they were saying is the bigger cities,
Yeah, they're out.
the
now,
bigger
but-
cities have bigger voices. And-
It's because, again, so Boston may have 6 state reps just for Boston.
Oh, I know.
We have one that handles 6 towns, you know, so when they all sit there to vote, the cities just outnumber every other
And-
community in the
and
Commonwealth.
In the big cities.
You need
So we
somebody
can
to
have a louder
schmooze these
voice,
guys
but-
to say, listen, you gotta give me a little something out of
You're
your
offering your
pocket."
services.
Whatever it takes, brother, whatever it takes.
Most of the small towns, every other Monday, in most cities, they have people there, like, there
Right,
every
they have the
day.
mayor that's-
They're there
yeah.
full-time.
Yep.
And what he was saying is, nothing against the selectmen, you know what I mean, we're voted, it's, you're there every other week. They have more time to come in here and push the buttons than you guys do, and it's true, you know what I mean?
So we need an Andy Dufresne to write a letter a week.
A couple pebbles a couple pebbles.
So anyway,
Yeah, we'll get there. I mean, again, first, we will identify the topics. I think the North Shore superintendents will. I told them I would go out and I would find a group that would certainly be willing to do that. And then you identify the 3 to 5, and then you do grow those numbers and just explain to everyone. It's one of those issues that it's hard to argue against. There's not a reason to argue against it. And then we go from there.
And we all have a common cause, is what I understand.
Yep, that's correct.
We're all in the same boat.
Yep, doesn't matter what district you're from, if you're urban, rural, I mean, we all feel the pinch. It's just that the North Shore, South Shore, and the western part of the state feel a lot more.
So if we can take 20, 30,000 people down to knocking on the State House doors, maybe that gets somebody's attention, huh?
It might
Make the news anyways.
get you zipped up and thrown away, too.
yeah,
Wouldn't be the first time.
all right. Well, thank you
Beat
again.
that
Yeah,
rap,
hey,
too.
no not a problem.
Are we all done with the budget?
So I don't have anything else. Those are my 2 points, the health insurance in Pentucket. Do you all have questions that you had for tonight?
Not really.
In the budget?
Just the overall budget discussion? I think we brought it, so tonight was the last of all the departments you wanted to see specifically.
Yeah.
So if there's anything else, otherwise, we just will go through budget by budget as it gets closer. If you'll remember, we scheduled a special meeting April 6th. That will be the night we have to vote everything. So that will be the night we vote the warrant and the budget. We have 2 meetings before then. So we have the 16th and the 30th to finalize everything and then vote on the 6th. I have to post the warrant that week.
Yep.
So
Okay.
if you,
If, and you probably sent it to me already, and I apologize if you did. If I get the Excel,
Yep.
that'd be great.
yep.
I love playing around with the numbers that way.
I can live without it.
Okay, so moving on,
Numbers.
we have votes of the board to close the 2020 special and annual town meeting warrants.
So this just closes it, so no other departments can submit articles unless I have a placeholder pending, so, just a formal vote.
So a motion to close the 2020 special and annual town meeting warrants.
Second?
So closing it would still allow me to bring something up under selectmen's time for the
It's
warrant?
closed for other, for other
Okay,
folks
that's
to
fine.
submit. It's your warrant, so you can
Right.
add stuff to it as long as you want.
Okay,
Good.
yep.
Any further discussion?
Kathy, you the second on that?
No, it was.
He made the motion.
No, I made the
Bill
motion.
was calling for a
Bill was
second.
asking
You
for a
second.
second.
Okay.
I thought someone already seconded it.
I was just saying second. Anyway, sorry. So any further discussion?
The two bills
All-
confused me.
All in favor? Okay, good. All right, so moving on to authorize Chair Dunn to delegate the duty of the responsibility entirety for environmental reviews at the Groveland Housing Authority to Selectman Watson.
Yeah, I'd like the motion, we table this until Selectman Watson
Second.
can be here,
Second,
because I don't understand
I have a lot
this
of
at all.
questions.
Okay,
So we have a,
yep. So make a motion, someone.
You did.
I think
I
you
did.
just did, and
All right,
Kathy seconded
I
it.
did.
Okay, all in favor? I guess it's, we'll discuss.
There's no discussion on the
discussion
table.
on
When you
Right.
table, you
To
don't
accept the resignation of Laurie LeBlanc as a registrar.
So if I may just comment quickly, so Laurie, this was part of the plan all along. I think I might have put it in the email
Yes,
to
you
you.
did.
So the plan was she got back on to assist Beth, but her skill is more running the election. So if you'll remember, Jen Close and Laurie LeBlanc were registrars. They oversaw the election. Registrars legally cannot have anything to do with the election, so we needed to change the way we did business here. So Jen and Laurie will be the wardens, one for each precinct, and they actually run the election inside that room. They're the only ones that can handle the new ballot boxes. If there's a question, a problem, they handle that. And then the registrars serve as an impartial, so if someone wants to contest a race, have a recount, that's done by the registrars. So that's why they're separate entities. So the state said Laurie just needed to resign by today so she could work the election tomorrow.
So you probably heard this on the news tonight, right?
What?
I didn't.
Let the town people bring their pens to the election, let them bring their own pens in, and no red pens because of the coronavirus. It was on the news, 6 o'clock news.
So we require marker because that's what the machine reads, so.
That's what the news was saying. What's the guy, the attorney, the head of the voting guy there?
Oh,
William Galvin?
Yeah.
Bill Galvin.
Yep.
Let's
Anyway.
wear your gloves.
All right, we'll see what
Wear your
happens.
gloves.
We'll just
Yeah.
put Purell around on it.
Purell around, you know.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, so,
So if someone
I'll
can.
make a motion to accept Laurie's resignation, Laurie LeBlanc's registration as a registrar. Thank her for her service. Welcome her to the new job, whatever.
second.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Thank
Uh,
you, Laurie,
Yeah,
for
real
your
quick.
time and what have you.
She's been a tremendous asset in that role, and I think, I have
She
no
will
doubt she'll
continue to be.
be,
Yep.
Right. All right, all in favor? Okay. Okay, so moving on, we go to finance director's time.
Just a couple quick things. So if you'll recall, next Monday, we have an executive session for contract negotiations. Is everyone good with 6 o'clock versus
The date,
the 9th?
I'll be here. I hope you're on the 10th.
It is myself and the police chiefs in the contract negotiations. This was the first night that everyone was going to be available.
I'm
So
there.
the 9th, right?
So the 9th. So are you all good if we start at 6?
Yep.
Okay, I'll
Sure.
post that tomorrow. And then just a reminder to everybody, the last day to obtain nomination papers for the town election is Thursday, March 12th at 5 PM. The last day to submit your nomination papers is Monday, March 16th at 5 PM. The last day to withdraw your nomination papers is Wednesday, April 1st at 5 PM. And the last day to register to vote for the annual town meeting and town election is Tuesday, April 7th. So we have a lot of races that no one has pulled papers for. I think at some point, based on what happens in this election, may start a different discussion about maybe going back to appointing some of these boards. Not that we'll get volunteers, but we're going to end up appointing people anyways because they're just not running for office. So we may have to look and see where we stand. The planning board is in desperate need of members. As you know, Bob Arakalian stepped down when he moved, and then Lisa Chandler, who's been on there, stepped down effective last week. So they need members on the planning board. I think only the Housing Authority is, I believe, the only contested race at this point. So please, if anyone has interest in running for public office, it only requires, I think, 28 signatures, so
36.
36, sorry. So get out there and grab those papers. And then lastly, just to let the board know, I've had a vacancy in my office for about 16 months. I'm going to fill the part-time clerical position with the, we just have work that's gone undone. I was holding off pending the management discussion. Since that's on the back burner, I need to fill that position. It's only about 16 hours a week. It'll help with if we do a yard waste permit, the parking tickets, just the stuff in the office that's not getting done. Then I can give my assistant treasurer more things that I handle, that she can take those things on. So just to let you know, I am gonna be, we have the money in the budget. I'm not gonna be expending even the money that's in there. But I'm gonna post that tomorrow for 16 hours a week. And hopefully in the next month or so, get someone in and get them trained while it's a little quiet over the summer and then
Yeah,
get to go. So,
that's a good idea.
just so that the board's aware of that. And that's all I have for you.
Right. And then we move to Selectmen's time and report, starting with Kathy.
Okay, so, I was looking at the point that we have a retirement occurring in our assessor's office, and as it's a one-woman job or one-man job, whatever you end up rehiring as, I thought it was a good opportunity to perhaps put on the warrant to include that department inside our financial department, because it really does belong in that department. It would also enable us, when we bring in the new person, to have that person not be kind of off on an island by themselves, to allow for cross-training, cross-coverage. You know, the whole business of having these offices with a department of one person, I think don't serve the taxpayer as well as having people within a more varied department, like a financial department, where, yeah, you'd have the assessing job, the tasks that Debbie is doing would get done, but you'd also have the opportunity, maybe that job could grow and learn some of the other tasks that are being done. It just looks like a good opportunity. We looked at including the assessment department when we first made the finance department, but at that time, just creating a financial department was such a huge undertaking for the town that we didn't want to disrupt so many departments at once. But with a retirement and bringing in a brand-new person, I thought that would be a good opportunity to bring them into, the assessing clerk, what's the assessing job
Her
description?
current title is assessing office manager.
And what is going to be the title that we advertise that, do you think?
To be honest, I would consider assessing clerk.
Okay.
So we outsource all the assessments,
So
but
does the person that works there now,
Debbie.
Debbie Webster,
is
yes.
she working 40 hours or whatever,
No,
full-time?
she's 32 hours currently, and
Right.
I think it could be a little less than that.
Okay.
And then, like Kathy said, you could certainly add a cross-training component.
Yeah. Because the other offices need it and what have you.
Or maybe, again, that office, I mean, right now, if Debbie goes on vacation, the office is
No, I know,
closed, so,
I
you know, we can do what we can as far as collecting paperwork, but really, everything else is handled when she comes
Right.
back from vacation.
Yeah, I don't see a problem as long as it's not costing any more money. I don't see a problem with it.
They should get up on the Board of Health.
Well, it would take, putting the article on the town meeting warrant, and then we need the legislation, right? To be
So
filed.
because the finance department was created through both a town bylaw and special legislation, it requires
how
the
we
two
did it.
steps at town meeting, which it's really a town meeting vote, and then, I mean, if the town meeting
Someone's
adopts
gonna need to
it, the
explain that.
legislation is going to accept
Okay.
it, you know? It's just gonna, might be some time. I mean, I think it took 8
Right.
months for the highway position, but it is a two-step process because the finance
Did we-
position, director, finance department was created by that.
No, we didn't do it. No, go ahead. Brain fart.
Yeah, and so Kathy mentioned it to me last week. I know you did speak with one of the Board of
I spoke
Assessors.
with Dana Moody, who's, I think, the chairman right now, and I sent an email to Bill Dark, and I've heard through the grapevine that he feels all right about it. But I spoke directly to Dana Moody and explained to him what I was thinking, and that, prior to bringing it up here, I wanted to make sure that there wasn't an overall objection from the Board of Assessors. And he said, no, it makes perfect sense. It's a good time for that type of change. It just seems like a good opportunity for that type of change. You're bringing in a fresh new face, good start, and it, again, it gives us the opportunity to, instead of having these departments where it's one person,
Right.
and they
No,
can
I
never
agree.
take time off.
Will we still need the Board of Assessors? We won't need them.
You know, you do legally need a Board of Assessors,
So we'll
but,
have to-
but that's another one. There's 3 members, we only have 2 that are
Right.
on there, so.
Right.
Okay.
But they don't oversee the day-to-day, and
No, no, I
we
know.
hire anyway, so.
I'm good with it. I mean, it makes sense.
And, I mean, that's something that, again, you could certainly look to appoint a Board of Assessors. A lot of cities and towns, you have an employee, you know, as, doesn't have to be me, but, you know, your finance director could be the 3rd member of the Board of Assessors, so that you only need to appoint 2. You know, or the office manager could be a Board of Assessor member, so that they're doing the work, they should vote on the applications that come before them. You could certainly do things like that. Again, that's down the road, but we've now had a vacancy for almost a year on the Board of Assessors.
Right.
So,
We
I'm
did have-
just concerned that we'll get to points that we don't have enough members to actually function on certain boards.
It is tough. It's tough for people to find time.
It is. So if, I don't know if you want to vote on that, if you just want to give, so I would have to look back and see what was adopted, I don't know,
20 years ago when we. created-
2005 or whatever, but
Can you put on the next meeting for an agenda item and vote? or
I
it's gonna be
can,
too
so I
late?
can have the language presented to you and just have a placeholder on the
Right.
warrant, and
Right.
Right,
I can certainly do that.
great.
Okay. Anything else, Kathy? Was that
No,
it?
that was it.
Okay, Bill?
Well, the Recreation Committee meeting got canceled last week, so it is actually taking place tomorrow night. So I don't have anything to report till tomorrow night. And the new high school building committee meeting also got postponed 1 week because they're going through a 60% reconciliation at that point. And they'll have much more concrete numbers at that point, so they put it off 1 week. So I'll have much more to talk about on those 2 committees the next time we meet. Getting back to a little problem with not enough people seem to want to step up. Folks, this is your town. I mean, if you don't care about it, who does, right? So, really, please, step up. It's not all that bad. We don't beat people up too often, only the ones that don't really do anything. And then we don't mind that much.
They're not coming out.
But you know what?
And there's the pitch.
There's a ton of great volunteers in this town, and we really recognize those people when they step forward and do an outstanding job. But folks, I mean, seriously, you have a big election tomorrow. Hopefully, people come out and make their voices heard. This is your town, it's your state, it's your country. Get involved. If you're waiting for someone else to do the job,
Right.
shame on you, shame on us.
And I will just say that we're not alone, as you know. Every city and town, as most of
Right.
towns are having these issues. I think there was a big article recently in the Newburyport News about the town of Newbury and their volunteer issues. It's just hard, people
People's
have
life.
so much, right, there's so much going
Life
on
is
in people's
busy.
lives and kids and sports and school. It's just,
Right.
I get it, it's hard for people to step up and volunteer. But it will start to create a hardship. We've
Right.
talked about it in the past with the planning board. If they don't have enough members, things are gonna be automatically approved. So if people don't like a development or something happening, it's because there's constructive approval because they don't have enough members to meet those criterias.
Right.
The Board of Assessors, there won't be any, if we don't have, if we lose another member, they will cease to function because they're a three-member board. So we will start to have issues if people don't want to step forward and
I wonder-
volunteer.
And a lot of this work is really, it's rewarding. I mean, I know by the time we're done, I'll have spent 6 years of my life working on this high school, middle school project. But at the end of the day, I think I'm gonna be very proud to look back and say I had a hand in making this happen, and that's my reward. People should look at it that way, and frankly, I don't really care about Newbury. Newbury's not my town, I care about Groveland.
Right.
So what's happening in Newbury and all the other towns and cities, that's because they don't care. Let's make sure the people in Groveland know we care, and let's step up to the plate and help us out.
I do have a suggestion. I think like, something like the Board of Assessors, if we could, first of all, if we could be somewhat flexible and say it'd be all right, if you're an at-home parent, to have a daytime meeting, if you don't want to be away at night and missing out on your time with family. And the second thing is that now that the training for it is online, right?
Yep.
They don't have to travel to the training, and would we be able to provide assistance for someone who was wanted to see what the training is and wanted to come down during the day to see what it is? If we could kind of help support people get involved, because I think it can be somewhat intimidating to try and jump in if you don't know what the rules are and the laws are, and you're worried that you're gonna make a commitment that you can't meet. Like,
Right.
do the assessors have to meet every month, or could they meet quarterly?
What-
That's the question.
But the assessors currently only meet like 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday or something.
Okay.
So, is that the issue? Do they need to meet at night because people work during the day? I mean, we could
Whatever is
certainly look at
fine.
this.
People that I've talked to,
Yeah.
I hope she's not listening, even my wife.
Uh-oh.
No, she didn't think she was good enough to do the finance board, and she didn't want to do it, you know what I mean, because she didn't think she was the right person, and my point is, if we had like a Saturday and had people come in that maybe some of the selectmen could talk to our people and talk to them and answer their questions, I think it would build up their self-esteem or whatever, you know what
I mean, we could certainly try to organize like a board and committee fair that people could
Something
come
like
in and
that,
talk to,
because I
but
know-
get-
I've talked to people in town,
Nobody will
and,
come.
and some people would
I-
run for selectmen and what have you, but they don't think they can do it. They think there's a lot that goes into it, and they don't think they can handle it. You know what I mean? It's not that
No,
they
I
don't
know.
want to, it's,
Yep.
they don't think they have the ability to do it, that's all.
You never know until you try.
No, I know, I agree.
Yeah, so just, people get out there and volunteer.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, so, and who, we were with the bill still, right?
That's it. I mean, I really,
Okay.
other things. Till next meeting.
All right, so now I have, the Washington Street building has been cleaned out and it's ready to go ahead and move the storage. Whenever you guys are ready, or Denise is ready, whoever's ready, they're top floor only.
Yep.
Then Mike Wood was traveling and I contacted him about meeting Senator Tar on the Washington Street building. Mike said, call Mike, this other guy, Mike, I did, got a hold of him. Make a long story short, Senator Tar called me, I had a conversation with him. He is in the process of trying to get the girl that was in the DEP, she was bigger, don't know the exact job title, but she was in the DEP. They took her out of the DEP, they put her in charge of the mass housing development. She lives in Gloucester. He's trying to set up a meeting with her and him to come out to town to view the property. And then in the interim, Denise has been getting some emails now in regards to,
From the EPA,
Yep.
yep. Do you want me to talk on that?
Yep.
Let me just pull up my email. So, the EPA, when Bill and I met with them 2 months ago, they were going to provide us with some information as a follow-up and what has been done on that property over the last few years. So, this morning I got a timeline from the EPA on certain items. They are having a, visit to the site on Thursday with the head of the, it's not coming up here, the head of the EPA's building removal,
the people that were in charge, basically.
well, the people that would be in charge to see if there's anything else the EPA can do for us regarding this site. So their meeting, I did put it out, so I think Bill will attend that, Mike may attend that. I sent it to Senator Tar and Representative Mira, because they wanted to be kept in the loop of anything that goes on with that project. But the, I will say, we've talked about it in the past with, oh, here it is. We talked about it in the past with the, if we were to remove the building or things like that. The estimate in 2006 to remove the building and do the mold and asbestos abatement was $268,000.
But,
So it's not a small thing to take that building down.
but in the paperwork that Denise gave me this morning, I think I found a loophole. I'm not gonna say what it is, but I think I found a loophole that I can hang on them when we meet Thursday, so.
Yeah, so they're meeting with the EPA removal people on the site to see. But he gave us back, so Valley ceased manufacturing operations in 2001. In 2002, the EPA removals program conducted site inspections. They talked about the underground storage tanks that were evacuated, removed, and properly disposed of off-site. I'll skip the next item because that's one Bill doesn't want to give up. They talked about the soil cleanup, the estimate to demolish the building, and then some resources going forward. So I don't know where we go from here. I think, Senator Tar will be a great resource in what he's trying to do, just to see if there's any interest in the property or someone else stepping in to help us. Maybe something will come of the meeting on Thursday. I don't know if the EPA will step up and say there's anything else they're willing to do for us. But, we'll see. I think it's nice that they're having the meeting at least. It's nice that, he did provide me a bunch of attachments and maps and documents, and so at least we know sort of where things stand.
I definitely think Senator Tar is committed to this, I do.
I agree. I think he's
I think he's committed,
frustrated.
right, right.
I think residents are frustrated.
And I think once he can get the people on site, it's gonna help too.
Yep. It's just, I think it's very expensive regardless of
Right.
who's involved.
Right.
It's not a quick fix by any means. But, we're working on it. We had a couple, just briefly last week, we had the gas situation on Wharf Drive, and an elderly couple came in and sat with me for about an hour or so while they were evacuated. And they both used to work there, and they watched the meetings, and they were happy to see that we talk about it. And, even if we can't get something done today, they know we're working on it. And I do think the residents appreciate that, we're trying to do something. There's not a lot we can do, our hands are tied, but we're trying, we're talking about it, we're getting other people to talk about it. So residents should rest assured, we are trying to get something done on this property. In the end of the day, we may not be able to because of the liability to the town, but we're working on it and see, whatever we can do to benefit the community, we will do, that we can within our liability. But, it's something we're working on, so.
Okay, and I think that was it. The building, the storage. Do you know anything?
No,
How we're gonna go about it or?
Yeah, it really just wrapped up. I have to go over there. I was really waiting till it gets a little bit warmer. I have to go over there and measure. I have to order some shelving units, and then,
See, when I'm asking, we don't expect you to move it. Are you have any idea you're gonna use the highway or?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Did you fix the stairs too?
All
Yes.
done, everything's done.
Oh, really? I'll have
It's
to
all
go
ready to
take a
go.
look.
So the stairs are fixed. I need to change the lock, so I'll go over there and put a new lock
Some
on.
of the stuff got moved onto the second floor, not a lot,
What
but
about those two boats?
They're not, I don't know where they are. They're not in the top floor. The top floor is empty. I think they left a few shelving units up there.
Right, no, but I'm saying they moved a couple
Right.
things down of
Right.
that, where they were working out a floor, and they were gonna move them again,
Yeah.
but I said we didn't have any plans for that floor yet.
Yeah, but I don't know if the boats, I don't really know if they made it to the first floor, if there's
Oh, I
someplace
don't know.
else that I don't know.
I think they were gone, but-
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll go over there, I'll measure, I'll get some shelving units. I'm waiting to see if we have money in this year's budget. And then I'll sign sections to departments and they can either move them or coordinate with someone to move stuff out there.
Okay, I
Great.
think that's it, it's getting late, so,
It is late.
okay, so, starting with Bill, old or unfinished business,
None at this moment, sir.
none with me, Kathy.
Nothing.
Other items not reasonably anticipated at this time of posting, Bill?
I have nothing, sir.
Me, no.
Me, no.
Okay, so moving on, correspondence, we have a letter from the Groveland Municipal Light Department from the Finance Board looking for a small increase in the payment in lieu of taxes.
Right, the letter went the other way, it's a letter two.
Letter two.
Yep. Good idea.
And then we have the minutes from the February 18th, 2020 meeting. And then we're gonna have, let me see, give me the time.
9:19.
I
Adjournment.
motion to adjourn the meeting at
Second.
9:19.
Second, and then all in favor? Okay.
Good. Oof, got a lot done.